and welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Factory. I am your host, Mookie Spitz, and I'm thrilled to have on the shop floor today Mr. Nathan J. Pearce. He is a new indie author, and today is his launch day of Faith Faraday and the Cyber Samurai. Welcome aboard, Nathan.
All right. Thank you so much, Mookie. Really glad to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you. You are entering the world of the indie scribe. This is your debut novel. And tell the listeners a little bit about Nathan. What got you into this racket? You're not out there selling crypto. Maybe you're doing that too. But you have chosen the life of an indie sci-fi author. What's going on?
Sure.
What's going on?
I've been at it for, I started about 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago. And this character sort of came to me, and I just started to explore her. And she's gone through a couple of different names and different professions. And it's very much I'm a discovery writer, a pantser. George R.R. Martin calls it a gardener. And it's been me watching her investigate this world of 2076 Tokyo, where she is a daemon hunter, like a demon hunter, but daemons are secret subroutines. They're AIs that are pretending to be viruses and bugs. So if a computer that controls the elevator goes wrong and the elevator hits the bottom of the shaft and kills everybody, was it a bug or was it a daemon? Well, she goes in and finds out.
So it's got a Blade Runner-y kind of feel to it, where she's going out to intercede these AI entities that are wreaking havoc in Tokyo in the future.
Right. So it's where Men in Black was about policing aliens. Faith Faraday is about policing rogue AIs.
Terrific premise. And is there anyone in your life that you've drawn up where you think either in a Freudian or otherwise biographical kind of way that Faith originated from?
Somebody asked me that today. One of my ARC readers asked me that today. Is she modeled after anybody? And she is definitely a self-insert. She is me. She is a bit of my wife, a bit of my mom, a bit of Batman, a bit of Kim Possible, and maybe both Gilmore Girls for the witty banter the sisterhood vibe and the witty banter that the Gilmore Girls have. So I like to say it's Blade Runner meets Gilmore Girls. That's my comp.
Awesome pitch. And not as a spoiler alert or anything, we're tacitly assuming that she is AI? She is human? Is there a twist?
You zoned right in on it, man. That's nobody ever asked that question. You're not supposed to ask it right away. No, I don't know, man. I actually do know. I do know. But I'm not answering that question.
We won't tell, but that's part of the aura here. And again, analogous to Blade Runner was Harrison Ford actually one of them?
Yeah, a replica.
The mystery unfolds.
And it wasn't really a question until they released the director's cut, and they had the glowing eyes and the origami, and there was a couple little clues sprinkled throughout the director's cut of Blade Runner that made everybody wonder. And then, of course, like you mentioned a moment ago, in her in the title, the AI in Faith is colored differently.
Makes you wonder.
Just
for the sake of sci-fi trivia and nostalgia, if I'm not mistaken, the pre-director's cut, the original version, had the origami.
You're right. I think it did.
And I think that was already a tell.
Yeah.
That he was a Blade Runner because of the dream sequence. It ties it back to the dream sequence, which suggests that it was implanted. So that's kind of, and the Philip K. Dick novel itself, obviously, do androids dream electric sheep? Was the source material.
And he's buried about an hour east from me. I'm in Colorado in the foothills. And Philip K. Dick I'm going to go visit his grave soon. He's just an hour away.
Yeah, people usually go to Jim Morrison's grave. I've never heard of anyone going to Philip K. Dick's grave, and I think you should do an expose on that. Actually, that's a fascinating hodge to go to Philip K. Dick's grave. Are you a Philip K. Dick fan?
Yeah, I haven't finished Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep yet, but it starts off wildly different. And
Well,
it's a
it's a completely different story,
yeah.
especially
And the
initially.
name, I mean, come on. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep turns into Blade Runner. It's such an amazing. I mean, I'm infatuated with good naming. I think a good name is key. Um, yeah. So with that, on that note, the Turing test, a test of conversational
Oh,
AI to see if, and so the Faith's original name was Chase Turing, and I had that way for about 6 months, and I just didn't like it after a while, and then it was Faith Turing, and then because of the Faraday cage and the defense against, it's almost like an AI defense against the dark arts, right? You're in a Faraday cage, you're immune from signals, so that's a safe place to go to get away from AI. So I figured that part of her name would be defense against AI, and the other part would be hope, hope for the future.
it's alliterative, Faith Faraday. It's also a
Mm-hmm.
little bit anachronistic and steampunky because of the Faraday. Faraday is a unit in electricity. It goes back to
Right?
Michael Faraday, the
Yeah, the discoverer of
physicist,
electricity.
and that's a great throwback. I like the name a
Thank you.
lot.
And
Yeah,
if I could read you the first line, uh, they named her Faith, but she has none. At least not in these AIs they lift up as gods. And that's the first. Thanks.
that's a good one. When you pick the name Chase Turing, that reminded me a little bit of Neuromancer. Case is the male protagonist in Neuromancer. So that's what popped to mind. And actually, some of your prose is poetic in a Gibson-y kind of way.
Oh, wow. Thank you, sir.
Do
I
you like
appreciate
do you
that.
like William Gibson? He's one of my
Yeah.
major
And I've read
heroes.
almost all of his, not quite every one, but almost all of his. And of course, Neuromancer. And Neil Stephenson is actually my favorite author. Uh, Snow Crash, and actually, The Diamond Age is my favorite sci-fi book. It's just because of the relationship the little girl has virtually over voice and avatar acting with an actress in a call center. Essentially, they get this really strange but mother daughter relationship over the internet. It's fascinating.
One thing I'm noticing about your entire approach to writing and science fiction, both in terms of your idols and what you feature as prominent and important, and in terms of your approach to this book, is that it's very, very character driven. You mentioned that the entire idea of this debut novel, germinating now for 4 years or so, started with the character. And personally, what I've discovered as a writer, creative writer, even a professional business writer, and now a sci-fi writer myself too, is if I've made mistakes in the past that had to do with concentrating on ideas or world building or anything that was outside the main character and the main
Yeah.
character's feelings, challenges, and motivations. So I think that's a great way to start. And I think that's the right approach to all fiction, all literature. And it's a big mistake, I think, that's often made in science fiction, where there's such a temptation to overwhelm the reader with ideas, even with plot,
Mm.
and world build the hell out of a book and suck the drama right out of it simply because of overemphasis on all these extraneous considerations.
That whole thing you just said, I had like five things I want to say about that
Say
because I
say
feel
all of
so.
them. This
I
is
feel
we're
so,
celebrating your launch, so
Oh,
go
thank you.
for it.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the covers. The character centric covers are not so popular anymore. Maybe they're making a comeback, but a lot of covers these days are about the world and the whole a something of something and something. You know, a Song of Ice and Fire has spawned off of Court of Thorns and Roses and all the other things, which I have a hard time remembering. And well, I took my inspiration for making my title and my cover character centric from Harry Potter. You know, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I have the next 3 or 4 or maybe 5 book names for Faith mapped out already. They're all written down in a Google Doc, and they follow that pattern: Faith Faraday and something. And I think that's a wonderful way to go. And I have a kind of a test. If you want to know if your character name or your book name is memorable, tell it to somebody, talk about something else for 5 minutes, and then ask them about it. Do you remember my name of my book? And if they can't, I mean, you know, that's not good if they can't. I'm in my profession is user experience, which is mostly software design, but getting people to remember something, where it is, what to do with it when you get there, it's key to, and being super, super clear. That's another part of my writing is I want everything that I'm trying to tell you to be super clear. There's lots of hidden stuff. There's lots of stuff you're not supposed to know, but I never want you to not know because it was confusing or just awkward.
Yeah.
You know?
I have to say that I'm waving the flag here. I'm like the road runner going meep meep, because I'm so in alignment with everything you just said. My own science fiction series, it's Johnny Fazuli and the Transfinite Reality Engine. I don't know if Johnny Fazuli's that memorable, but the
I tried
second book,
Googling him
yeah,
today.
the second book is Dr. Casey Floyd Messes with Texas. So I'm doing the same thing you are. And we
Yeah,
did not compare notes before the podcast. So we are very much aligned in being character centric. That's number one. And number two is this idea of crystal clear writing. I see writing and literature, it's kind of like a game of chess where the rook the rook moves forward and to the side, and if it starts doing different moves, then players are confused for no reason. And fiction and drama is best when you let the characters in a very clear way express what they need, set up very clearly defined challenges, and then have them go at it. And that emergent plot is a consequence of their goals and the obstacles, and you let them loose.
right.
So
I
I'm
think that
so with you on that.
it lends itself really nicely to the discovery writing approach to things. As I'm mapping out book 2, I am outlining with big tent poles of events that have to happen, but how we get from one to the other is going to be up to what I sometimes I just make a scene and I put Faith in there and I'm like, what would she do now? You know? And I got called to the carpet with one of my readers. She's like, there's no way Faith would let Hero get away with that. I mean, look what he just did, and she's not saying anything about it. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. I'll go fix that. And thankfully, I fixed it before publishing this first book. But yeah, I bristle too at the what can seem like rigid hero's journey, save the cat, 17 pillars of whatever these structures are, which my editor tells me comes from screenwriters having to churn out a lot of stuff, and you having a formula that you can plug things into makes sense in that arena. I don't have that problem of having to put out 4 stories a year, so I can be more exploratory about it. But when I've tried, actually, it was funny. I write the book, and then my editor's like, "Oh, I see. You're following the 4 acts structure, and in the midpoint you did this, and in the third quarter you switched to that." And I'm like, "That I might have done that subconsciously, just matching the stories I've heard in the world, because I mean, I'm sure 10,000 of those stories have done that, and maybe I reflected that." In telling my own, because we all reabsorb and put out what we see, but there's no way I was doing that. There's not no way at all.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's a consequence of the story emerging from your setup. That's terrific. I'm a big fan of Eddie Van Halen, the guitar player. I also play guitar. And he did not read music, and he did not know too much music theory. It was all by ear.
Oh,
So then folks would come in and analyze the pyrotechnics that he would do on the fretboard, and he would say, they come in and I say I went from suspended D7 to, augmented 5. And he literally said, I hate that shit. I don't even know what they're talking about. And it's the same kind of thing, which is deconstructing intuition and the natural consequence of how a dramatic arc flows, right? It feels right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then trying to, anticipate if I decided to go with one of these structures, I think it would feel really strange to say, oh, and now she has a downturn and she doubts herself. Well, I mean, I would feel like I'm imposing that on her uh, instead of watching her explore it. So anyway, that's my. I may not know what I'm doing. It seems to have worked. I wrote this book because it's a book I wanted to read, and I have to be honest with you. The number of times I've edited it, I love reading my book. It is so much fun. It is really a lot of fun to read. And even when I'm editing it, I'm like I have a giant Google Doc of little snippets that I'm going to craft into little social media, Instagram type of images, right? Where I have like 2 or 3 lines of text and an image. And there's lots of them. There's lots of little bite-sized pieces of banter or moments, and that are little vignettes that I think will serve me well in the future.
This is an amazing experience for me. Our point of view is very much aligned, and it's thrilling for me because in a sense you're a kindred soul by how we go about writing. And that's
Sure.
reinforced by what you just said in terms of loving our own stuff. So we can be blamed for being Wagner, right? Who just listened to his own music. Wagner is often depicted in a bathtub with bubbles and, 14 German nymphs around him, right? Listening to his own music with the orchestra, next to the bathtub. But I love that. It has taken me an awfully long time, frankly, decades, to reach the point where I love and embrace my own content. And that might
That's so cool.
sound narcissistic and self-serving, but as any creator can attest, our biggest obstacle as a creator is simply to love and adore the stuff that we do, because we tend to be so self-critical. And it's taken us such a long time to master our own voice that if you
Sure.
love your own stuff, you don't need anything else. When I finished my debut novel, actually just this June, in science fiction, I'm in love with it. I love it. And it sounds like you're in love with Faith and her adventures too. I love Johnny Fazuli. And for me, Johnny Fazuli is a perverse extreme extension of everything awful about myself.
Oh,
So I dialed all my worst tendencies to 11, and that is Johnny Fazuli. And it sounds like Faith operates in a different kind of emotional catharsis for you. Are you in love with Faith? Is Faith like your ideal partner? And I don't mean to make your wife jelly, but is that what Faith is for you?
it's more like what gender aside, it's more like what I wish I was, what I wish I was, the virtues and the bravery. Um, I tell my son, he's 23 years old. I told him since we could start talking that bravery is being scared but doing it anyway. And Faith has a lot of fears, and I have my own fears, but I do pride myself on putting myself in the line of fire, taking the risks in real life. I've saved a couple lives because I stood in the path, which is and the people that I saved say that there's 2 of them, but I also in my life I do operate by the seat of my pants. I am a throw myself into a situation anticipating I'll be able to get myself out, not having any plan at all, and it's worked out almost every time. A couple of notable times it hasn't. I once got carjacked at gunpoint. That one, it didn't work so well. I got attacked on the New York City subway one time. I got in a fist fight. That one was bad for about 2 minutes, and then it was okay. But yeah. So Faith, she's afraid of heights, but she plummets down an elevator shaft. She climbs a rock wall. She flies around on a glider. She's terrified every moment of it, but she does it anyway. I love that about her.
That's terrific. So, in ways, she's a projection of your best qualities, which is courage, grit,
empathy
determination.
is a big one.
And it sounds like ingenuity is another one.
Yeah, that's for sure. Her initial the first 2 chapters, she's infiltrating an office building, and she uses parts of her costume to pick locks and set up a laser to cut a hole in the glass and all kinds of fun stuff. And part of that whole thing was something I did in real life. So Faith, the original chapter that I sent you earlier today, it starts in media res, which is in the middle of the action. It's Latin for in the middle of the action. It's a literary and screenwriting trope. And I kind of like the Mission Impossible stuff where Tom Cruise is like right
that.
in it. We don't want to see Tom Cruise with his feet
late,
up,
get out early. Right.
Yeah, we usually see him right in the middle of something, and I think it might even come from Shakespeare, because in the Globe Theater, they would start the plays with some spectacle that was loud and weird, like the witches in Macbeth. They're designed to get everybody to sit down and shut up in the theater. So there's that. But I think that in media res in a book, in movies, is so much fun to see your hero doing whatever it is that they do best, as opposed to a day in the life stuff. I don't want to write that where it's some humdrum office dweller who something happens to him. That's fine for a lot of people. I don't want to write that myself. I want to get in the thick of it. So anyway, she goes into this office building and she's delivering a pizza. And in my world, there's been several corporate mergers and then businesses that had to shift to make good with the times. And in this case, Domino's Pizza has had a lot of competition because of all the pandemics that have happened in the 50 years from now to 2076. There's been like 3 or 4 100-year pandemics since in that space. So everybody's delivering food. So in order to get an edge over everybody else, Domino's Pizza made it all dominatrix delivery staff. And after I thought that idea up of changing the O in Domino's to an A for Dominaz Pizza, like dominatrix, I Googled it, and there's somebody making magnets and T-shirts with the same idea I had. So I got a T-shirt and a magnet. Anyway, I should probably talk to the artist.
And you do realize there's the Stevenson homage there too, because of the beginning of Snow Crash. There's an awful lot of pizza delivery in the beginning of Snow Crash.
Maybe that was I don't think that's what inspired it. Actually, I love, like I said, he's my favorite. That was a coincidence because in real life I did this, except for the dominatrix angle. I was getting stonewalled by an HR rep, wouldn't forward my resume on to a hiring manager, right? And I was like, can you just give me their name so I can email them my stuff directly? And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, so I go and I order 3 pizzas at Pizza Hut, not Domino's. And I convince I put, I get a cheese, like a pepperoni sausage, and then like a supreme, right? And then I put a 1-pager resume taped under the cover of the pizza box on the cheese, and then a medium 2-pager, 3-pager resume and the medium pizza, and then like a 7-page resume of everything I've ever done in the supreme. And then I put them all together, and I tell the dude at Pizza Hut that I'm going to sneak in to this office building pretending to be a pizza delivery guy. And can I please borrow your thermal bag? So I look the part, right? And he's like, yeah, man, sure. I know you'll bring it back. And I was like, okay, cool. So, and that's a picture I sent you earlier today. And it worked. I walked up to the front desk, and it's actually beat for beat what I wrote in the book, going up and getting challenged. And they're like, what's your name? Who are you delivering this to? And I'm like, the user experience department. We're going to need a name, dude. We can't just let you into the user experience. I'm like, I'm going to get busted. And that's what Faith says in the book. And then this guy comes out of a door behind the security desk, and he's in gym clothes, and he's all sweaty, water bottle and a towel. and he hears me say, "Oh, I'm trying to get to the user experience department," and he says, "Oh, hey, follow me. I'm going that way. I'll bring you in." And then I just follow him, and the security guards don't look happy, but they let it happen. And he buzzes me in, he gets me in the key carded elevator up to the 4th floor, and he lets me go. He goes, "Oh yeah, they're down the hall to the left." And I just wander around inside this office building until I find the UX team. And I got the name of the hiring manager, and I got to be friends with the UX team. She was in a long meeting, but it all worked out. I didn't get the job because one of the people freaked out that I did this. He thought that was the worst thing ever, so he blackballed me. But makes for a fun story, and that's what Faith does in the book.
I think that's a terrific story. And really, you got to make that connection. And it also shows your character and your character in alignment with Faith's character, too, in terms of having that ingenuity and that courage. Apparently, Steven Spielberg set up an office in Hollywood when he was early 20s with no experience and no creds, put a director placard on the door, and then drove out to Sonny and Cher's house. This was a different time back in the it was like the late 60s, early 70s, and walked right up to the door, knocked on it, and Sonny Bono answered the door, and he introduced himself as, "Hi, I'm Steven. I'm a director." Now, did that touch point launch his career? I don't know. It helped him bust in a little bit, but it takes that kind of icebreaker to make connections with people. And in our algorithm-driven universe, we expect the bots to place us where we need to go. But at the end of the day, it's all about the human touch and human networking, really, to make a difference. So that sounds intriguing and in character.
Yeah, you can't trust the algorithm to get it right, of course. When I work in tech, and the algorithm gets it wrong all the time, and we put too much trust in it, honestly. And that's actually the core of the book: is how much do you trust AI and how you shouldn't. And Faith is an AI engineer. She can code AIs, but she's so suspicious of them. She's investigating the death of her twin sister. So her twin sister, Hope Faraday. So Hope and Faith. Hope, yeah, thank you. And their father, Adam. I have a lot of biblical stuff in there. Hope is an astronaut, and there is this space mission, a colony mission to a distant star, and using a faster than light technology that was invented by a super intelligent AGI that's called SAMU. And SAMU invented the faster than light thing. He invented practical quantum computing that you can actually have in your house, which you can't. It's not possible today. And quantum fusion. So the Tokyo becomes
and that
Japan
it was all before breakfast. He did that,
right? Really, but his inventions sort of leapfrog Japan ahead of everybody else in the technology race, right? But his faster than light drive on the spaceship, there's 500 Japanese people that are going to go make a Japanese only, pretty much, colony on this distant star. And it has to go behind the moon before it takes off, to protect Earth in case something happens. And when it takes off, it explodes and everybody dies. And so Faith is obviously very upset. 500 of her countrymen and her sister are dead. And she wants to know if that AI in particular is to blame. And he's being quarantined up in a tower called the Hollow that's deep inside of Mount Fuji. There's a research and development bunker deep buried inside of Mount Fuji with a big old tower in the middle of it. And he's up at the top, and she has to go and get him and interrogate him, essentially.
Great setup. Now, when you talk about AIs and bots, you've got an AI as a brain in a box, and then you've got robots that interface with the world. In your universe, are these AI bots autonomous agents with physicality? Are they digital constructs? What are they like?
That's it's almost like we planned this. So she in this future Japan, it's illegal for a private citizen to put a sentient AI in a body. And there's the term embodiment is used quite a bit in AI and robotics field. And so Faith has a little kind of a utility robot who's kind of dumb, and his name is Chip. And he can he's made out of nanobots, and he can transform into useful stuff. And he's kind of like a quantum Swiss Army knife to Faith. So she doesn't have a lot of respect for him so much, but she has an AI in her ear, somewhat inspired by the sequel to Ender's Game, Speaker for the Dead. Ender has Jane in his ear, and I just love that. And hers is named Grace. In following with the Hope, Faith, Grace, Adam.
I love your nomenclature. It's
Thank you.
great.
So there's this scene, there's this flashback where Adam, Faith's dad, and Faith are talking about how to teach Samu, and Samu is the AI that maybe is responsible for everything. And this is when he's younger. Adam says, I'm gonna teach Samu how to lie, because he has to deal with humans, and humans are deceptive, so I need to teach him how to lie too. And Faith takes issue with that. She's like, that's not right, Dad. Why don't you instead of deception, why don't we teach him empathy? And he's like, oh, you sweet summer child. You're too innocent to understand that empathy won't cut it. I need deception. And they are at loggerheads. And that night she hacks into his computer and forks the code. And she makes her copy and puts it on her computer, and she calls it Grace. And she teaches that one empathy, while Dad takes Samu and makes him deceptive. So Grace and Samu are two sides of the same coin, two AIs that one is deceptive, one is empathic. And she has Grace in her ear as she's going into the hollow tower. And so Grace is the man in the chair, like Spider-Man. Remember that? On the way up, they find out, or when they get to the top, they find out that Samu is ensconced in the body of a robo geisha named Jinx, and it's her duty to protect him from any intruders. Right? So she's the guard, and he's inside her. So in order to get all that out of the hollow, to get Samu out of the hollow, Grace goes from her, in the ear presence, and possesses essentially the cyber geisha, and then they bodily take her out. And then the next third of the book is Grace saying, you know what, I want a body. I kind of like this. They get back to the apartment, and she's like, I'm barefoot on the carpet. What's that Wagyu you're cooking? That smells so good. Can I watch you eat it? And she's just infatuated with the sensory experience. And there's actually that dovetails into sentience. There's actually a theory in real life today that embodiment is the path for AIs to gain sentience, because they can explore and experiment and poke things and see what happens. And that's Grace is just dying to get out of the computer and into a body. And they make one out of transparent aluminum, borrowed from Star Trek. Thank you very much. And it's called the chalice. Again, the biblical stuff, the cup of Christ type of deal. And so they build her a body out of transparent aluminum and gold wiring. Gold because of the kintsugi, gold repairing of broken pottery is a Japanese art, and that plays into the cyber geisha as well. But so she has gold wiring that you can see because her limbs are transparent. She's a glass robot.
This is incredibly astute. And what I love about the trajectory of what you just said too is you have a real sensitivity and understanding of real science and real technology and the philosophy that underlies a lot of how we look at the universe based on our knowledge to date. One thing that science fiction writers, I believe, often blow is that they just make shit up. They pull it out of their ass. And especially fantasy writers do this all the time. There's no accountability to the paradigms of science, technology, and our understanding of the world. And I think that they're at a loss for this, because if you really start to understand the science and the philosophy that's underneath it, it makes your writing so much more powerful and evocative. Yeah. You're bringing up a key point, which is essentially the difference between predictive and reinforcement AI. And there's a huge body of research now that the path to AGI, that holy grail of what everyone's seeking, is contingent on hybridizing these two. The LLMs, the large language models right now, are almost entirely predictive.
Yeah.
They use probability. They break up everything into tokens, and then based on probabilistic math, matrix math, based on your prompt, they cobble together an answer for what you're looking for. And reinforcement learning is different. It's in the real world. You've got a robot running around the laboratory looking for the plug to get juiced. And it learns not predictively based on pre-training, but it learns based on its lived experience in the laboratory. It makes a mistake, it corrects it. It makes another mistake, it corrects it. It makes another mistake. It trains pretty much in real time. And obviously it has a feature set underneath that. But you're illustrating a key point that adds to your narrative. And this dichotomy between the digital, the entirely virtual, the augmented interface between digital and reality, and then this idea of robots that are out there, that are the AIs interacting with the world, is significant. That's like the foundation of talking about this stuff. And when you just whitewash it and you don't care, or you just arbitrarily put a robot character and then you have a brain in a box and you've got no sensitivity about this interface between worlds and the philosophy and the knowledge that's underneath it, you're missing out on all the fun. And you get it, and you've plugged it into key character and plot elements in your book. And I love that. I think that's terrific.
Thank you. You're hitting it on all cylinders. I find it's just the authenticity you get from doing the research. One time I researched for 3 hours about neutrinos, and the result was 2 paragraphs. Two paragraphs, and I did 3 hours of research. I'm like, but now I know it. And actually, a nuclear physicist read that part and he goes, "Oh yeah, look at that! You did your research." And I was like, this. It was very validating that he felt that way. On the trial and error thing, the Chip character, I made a graphic the other day where Chip was trying to help a neighbor out who had a French poodle, and it was raining outside. So he transformed himself into a doghouse so get the dog out of the rain, but he forgot to put a doorway on it. So, and then the last line is like, so who knew that French poodles were so expensive? As he suffocates the dog, is the unspoken thing there. But he has a lot of.
You know what you're talking about. You've created a framework. You're plugging into different paradigms, right? And then you're doing your homework, which creates new ideas. In my book, I've got the spider's jar, and it's a 10 meter by 10 meter cylinder, obviously contained by a rubber band, and down to the Planck volume, it's able to instantiate any object based on its programming. So it takes the Jorge Luis Borges idea, the Library of Babel, where you have every possible book in a library, which is a vast library, like millions of light years in every direction. But every possible book is in this library. So everything that's been written, is being written, and will be written is in this vast, but here's the thing, finite library.
Oh.
So think about that. If you've got a book that's, it's finite. You have every permutation of all the characters of every possible book. So if every book is 400 pages long and you've got 80 characters on a line and 40 lines on a page, do the math. How many iterations of books can you have? And the answer is vast. And I actually did the calculation.
But it isn't infinite. It stops somewhere.
Finite. That's what's mind-blowing about it. Everything. So this is such a key point, and it is, again, derived from research, philosophy. every book that's ever been written is being written. And here's the thing. Here's the mind-blowing aspect. Will ever be written is in this static, however vast, but finite library of books.
As long as you put limits on it, like it can't be infinite pages, right? It can only be X number of pages. It'll be an incredibly high number, but it will be a number. Yep. Yeah.
I took that idea and go, why end with books? Create a 10 by 10 cylinder with a vast computer powered by a magnetar. It's a station where the blast of the magnetar is the source of energy for a vast supercomputer of the future that's able to the Planck volume, do a binary 0 or 1 and represent everything that's ever happened, is happening, and will happen.
Wow.
So is this theoretically possible? I don't know. It sounds good, but the philosophical impact of this is incredible. And the curmudgeonly scientist who's a spider in a web above the jar, he's getting endless requests from throughout the multiverse to do research. Why? Because everything's in his jar.
Right. Lots of what if questions. What if I did this? What if I did that?
You run any simulation you want. Anything that you can imagine, everything's in the jar.
That's amazing.
He's lazy and kind of bored because he gets so many requests. And then the bad guy in my book hacks into his jar and appears as an avatar and disrupts it. And that's one of the focal points of the narrative. That's how things get going. This entity is ransoming reality from within the spider's jar. So the reason I'm going off on this is not just self-promotion here, but it's reinforcing what you're saying about the value of research and understanding philosophy and science, because this is such a fascinating idea. And then I went and I did the research. So just like you spent 3 hours checking out neutrinos so you can speak with authority, I spent quite some time researching exactly how many Planck volumes are in a 10 by 10 cylinder, and then trying to figure out how this could come to be and convey that in a meaningful kind of way.
That's amazing.
And I'm not a genius scientist. I'm a bald guy in Orange County, California. But writers, if you're listening, especially science fiction writers, do your frickin' homework. Don't just pull this stuff out of your butt.
And what I find that there's been a number of epiphanies, serendipitous discoveries as I do the research. I think sometimes people say, I don't want to be chained to reality. But the truth is, when you look into it, there's so many avenues to explore and so many things that, this truth is stranger than fiction. You're like, what? It does that? That's crazy cool. I'm going to put that in my book. Your idea about the guy coming into the spider jar, I have that in something similar to that in the short story I wrote for the Fellowship of the Indie Author. Tales from the Fellowship of the Indie Author is an anthology that's coming out on the 6th, 3 days after my book. And I wrote a 5,000 word story for that. That is from book 3 of my series. And Faith goes into the quantum fusion reactor space inside of Mount Fuji because somebody seems to be trying to hack it with quantum entanglement. Somebody somewhere else. And there is a sister fusion reactor underneath Mount Yotei, which is considered Mount Fuji's sort of sister mountain. And it's a Hokkaido to the north, the big island of Hokkaido. And they had 2 identical reactors. And the bad guy has taken over that one, and he uses the quantum entanglement to teleport himself into Mount Fuji and try to take it over. And she's right there when it happens, kind of similar to your guy getting into the spider jar. So he shows up, and it's somewhat of the inspiration of that big orange circle on my cover. So my quantum fusion reactor, some of the fusion reactors are big horizontal circles, and they hold the plasma in a hovering position, so it doesn't melt anything. The plasma is super, super hot, and it's spinning in a horizontal circle held up by magnets. And so this one is vertical instead of horizontal, and it's quantum. So it's always going clockwise, and if you walk around the other side of it and look at it the other way, it's also spinning clockwise because it's in superposition. It's spinning both ways. The cat is both alive and dead at the same time. And so that's
That's
yeah. There's a
great.
whole lot of that in this 5,000 word short story that I just had so much fun. And you find out things about Faith. You're like, what happened to her? And because she's very different physically, I won't say how, in this short story than she is in the original book. So some real bad stuff happens in book 2, and it affects her greatly. And you see that when she shows up in Mount Fuji. You're like, if you've read book 1, and hardly anybody has it at the moment, it's like 20 people have, I think.
I'll definitely be 21 because we're like soul brothers in terms of our whole approach. Yeah.
And it was so much fun. That's the Fellowship is a group that formed on Twitter and then went to a Discord and wrote an anthology together. There's 19 authors, and it's all have to do with you had to put a monolith in your story, and there's a monolith that forms in the middle of the teleportation fusion thing that the bad guy steps out of the monolith. And
good 2001 homage that you guys did. What I love also about your description is you always come back to the character. So you just described the sophisticated quantum portal. There's entanglement. There's teleportation. There's all this hocus pocus. There's a world. But you go back to how the character feels about it. And that makes for good writing. The chapter where I introduce the spider's jar, this ultimate simulator, which gets technical and gets philosophical.
Yeah.
I call it Hating Mondays because the spider's in his web hovering above the jar that gets hacked into. And it's a frickin' Monday. The spider's hungover. He just got a trillion queries for his ultimate simulator. And he's over it. He's exhausted and he's lazy because he figures if he responds to 3 queries or 3 billion, it doesn't matter because so many have accumulated. And it's Monday, and then he gets hacked on a Monday. And then the powers that be, because the avatar hacking his ultimate simulator is literally ransoming the universe or the multiverse. So you have his boss showing up physically, not as a hologram, but the ships are entering. There's a battle, and all this shit goes down on a Monday. Yeah. And it's all through this curmudgeonly old spider's point of view. And that humanizes the narrative. And it allows me as a writer and a geek to get into the science and get into the world building and really geek out in a way where it always ties back to the characters, how they're interacting with each other. The spider hates the general and the executive bureaucrat, and it's that tripartite typical thing of, MacArthur and Truman, right? And then the research scientists. So they're archetypes. But if you lose sight of that as a writer, you're going to lose your readers, and you're no longer a literary force. You're now a Wikipedia article. That's the key difference.
Your focus on the character side of it. I didn't even say who comes out of the portal because I don't want to spoil it for people, but I'll tell you later when we're not on record. But you're absolutely right. Who steps out of the portal is a pivotal character. So that's really cool. Your curmudgeon, I can imagine he must get really irritated at the inane queries he gets, right? He's probably seen the best of the best. He's probably knows what people should be asking for. And he's getting all of these questions like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever, right? That's so cool.
Yeah. And I've got the queries coming in at an old Wurlitzer jukebox. I had that kind of steampunk thing, with
the arm lifts up and it picks up the record.
With the lava lamp bubbles on the side and all that.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
They come in like the those plastic albums that flip with the songs. So I want to make it steampunky and very organic and quirky. and he deliberately slows it down. How many queries can come in a jukebox? Not too many. So I'm with you 100%. One theme that really resonates is I could fairly say it's your obsession with Japan, all things Japanese. So I'm assuming there's some biographical roots in this happening in futuristic Japan based on your own adventures.
Yeah, after college, I traveled to Tokyo and taught conversational English there for a year, and it was just an amazing experience. I was doing photojournalism at RIT in Rochester, New York, and I was 2 years in, and I'd learned most of what I was going to learn. Really, I figured out that the other 2 years are going to be kind of practice, and I was racking up the student loan debt. I'm like, man, this sucks. And then I found out how much photojournalists actually make. And I'm like, this really sucks. I'm paying more per year than I'm going to make per year. It was like $17,000 was a starting salary for my friends. I'm like, man. And so I called my mom up and I'm like, what am I going to do? And she's like, if you could do anything in the world, money notwithstanding, what would it be? And I said, well, I think I would live in Japan for a year. Because I'd read Shogun, and that was just, I'd already had an interest in Japan, but after reading Shogun, I'm like, holy shit, this is great. I want to learn more about this. And I had met a young lady. I'd snuck into a bar when I was 17 and met this young Japanese exchange student lady named Takako. And she and I got to be literal pen pals, like with paper and envelopes. And over the years, we sent things back and forth. And I'm like, I want to come over there. And she's like, gave me her phone number. And I talked to my brother, and he had this brilliant idea of putting an ad in the paper and this is in Western North Carolina, that said, self-funded student seeks donations of garage sale items for a trip to Japan. And I got all these calls. Some of them were trying to unload their junk on me, but a lot of them were valuable things. And I had 5 or 6 massive garage sales, and I collected $3,000, and I used that to fly over. And Takako's dad had an 8-unit apartment building in Tokyo in a big suburb called Setageaku. And they put me up until I found my own place and I found my job. I also didn't have a job going over there. Another one of those by the seat of your pants type of deals. My buddies that I met over there, they all went over with Japan English teacher, and they take half your paycheck. But for setting you up with a job and an apartment and all that stuff, a visa. And but if you go over there on your own power, you can make double what those guys make. You just have to find the job, find the apartment, and then get your visa. Come over on a tourist, and then get the job, and then switch to work. And it was a phenomenal experience. I was okay with Japanese. I got way better with immersion. But several of the stories the adventures that Faith has in the book are directly from my adventures in Tokyo. The riding through Shibuya Scramble and some dude yelling at me, "Have a nice day," because he wanted to practice his Japanese, and wandering around Love Hotel Hill in Shibuya, where all the love hotels are. And I walked into one and got immediately kicked out because I was a Westerner who was alone. Like, what are you doing here, fella? And a bunch of others. Shinjuku Station, I went through that every single day on my commute to work. It sometimes is considered the biggest and busiest train station in the world. And a lot happens in Shinjuku Station and under Shinjuku Station.
Japan has this allure for Westerners, and it has obviously for centuries in a big way. And it seems to be ground zero for cyberpunk too, to a large extent. Gibson's Neuromancer, right, has that very Japanese flavor, including the scenes, the language, the hybridized jargon and slang. So it's a natural.
Sure.
For your world to erupt in Japan, and you have your own biographical origin, so you're emotionally tied to it. It's not just like you threw a sci-fi chart at the globe and said, well, I'm gonna go Gibson on this and put it in Japan, but you have a direct connection to that. And Japan, I think it's fair to say, and not to come across as stereotypical, but the Japanese are their own thing. You've got vending machines with fish soup and women's
That's true.
panties.
Yeah.
You've got this stoical determination where, I remember seeing the videos of the tsunami coming, and then you have everyone just kind of like, all right, well, it's a tsunami. Well, we got to deal with this.
Yeah.
And then you have their obsession with bonsai and rock gardens and this Zen minimalism and purity. And yet we know their history too, in terms of conquering China, invading Korea, and they've largely whitewashed it. It's a complete rewrite of history. So there's such a mixed bag of exotic tricks, and I think inscrutable sounds very stereotypical, borderline racist when you say inscrutable Asian. That has its own context. But there is that inscrutability, which is like you're really mystified as to what's going on over there and what the sentiment is. And because of that mystery, you're fascinated by it. And I think it's a perfect setting for your novel.
It is. And you're right. There are dichotomies that make very little sense. Even though, etiquette is king over there. When I was there, they gave me a free pass all the time. I'm sure there were people that were very angry at me, but for the stupid, Westerner gaijin things I was doing. But when I did do them, they were just like, it's all right, man. He's a gaijin, it's okay. And but to each other, I mean, they're super strict, right? But there was very many dichotomies that didn't make a lot of sense to my Western mind. But living there for long enough, you start to see things you didn't necessarily see before. When you first get there, your impression is everybody has very dark brown or black hair. But I remember going to work one morning, and the sun was rising through the buildings, and it just lit up everybody around me. And back then, I was a head taller than everybody. I'm only 5'10" though, so it's not. I'm the average for a white dude is like 5'10", and I just saw hundreds of shades of brown to black, and my eye had become more sensitive to the differences in the Japanese folks. Where in the past, I just categorized, oh, that person's Asian, that person's Japanese, Chinese. Now I saw through exposure all the vast flavors of different kinds of people there.
And I'm sure they feel the same way about us. Like, all white people look alike.
No, you know what? It's been proven that every race does that. We're so in tune with our own race that certainly there is if you notice, like in anime, there is a lot of wildly different color hair, purple and blue and green and stuff like that. I think there's a desire to have a lot of variety in hair color because of the homogeneity.
The homogeneity of the people.
Look, we both use the $5 word. Yeah.
Yeah, and they take pride in it, though, to the point where
it's true.
They're exclusive. There is zero immigration, like none. Well, and it's just bad. They're if you do the population charts and the demographics, Japan is going to empty out in 50 years.
That's a big topic right now.
Into disasters, just like South Korea is headed into disaster too. The birth rate is going down below what's sustainable.
Below replacement, way below replacement.
Right. Yep. So your future Japan, unless something changes, right? It's almost like they had to go AI because there's no people left.
Yeah. And, and even though I lived there and learned the language at the time, I don't remember it anymore. It's been a long time. And my deep interest in it, I knew that I really wanted to be authentic and accurate. So I hired a Japanese cultural sensitivity reader, and man, was she picky. Holy smokes. And she herself is a hafu, which is Hafu. It means half Japanese, half something else. And that's what Faith is. Faith is half Danish and half Japanese. She has sort of fox eye eyes. And in the beginning of the book, one of the guards she's trying to infiltrate past is like, oh, your Japanese is perfect. And she goes, well, I am Japanese. And he goes, no, where are you from really? I mean, originally. and which is what a lot of people do to people. And she goes, "I was born and raised in Shibuya. You know, don't give me any guff. I'm Japan. Just as Japanese as you are." And the story behind it is Adam, the father, he's Danish, and he married a Japanese lady, Faith's mom, and he wanted his daughters to look like him. So he used CRISPR gene editing to flip the dominance. The dark hair and the darker eyes is genetically dominant to blue eyes and blonde hair. So he just flipped that switch, and his twin daughters were blue eyes and blonde hair. Yeah.
I went the hybrid route too. My kid's mom is native Korean. So I'm blue. I have baby blues, even though I'm not so much of a baby, at least, physically, if not emotionally. And my kids asked me, like, what's the probability that we would have had blue eyes? And I say, zero. There's not even a dominant subdominant. There's nothing on your mom's side. But to your point, we could have CRISPR'd that stuff in had they been born a little bit further along the technological trajectory there, right? So you've got gene editing, you've got AI. Speaking of AI, you started 4 years ago. So we're now 2025. So it seems like in 2021, in the midst of the pandemic, toward the tail end of the pandemic, is where faith spawned in your imagination. And my Johnny Fazuli erupted similarly in the pandemic. I'm sitting there.
Shakespeare did a lot of writing during the Black Plague, by the way. He was holed up.
Isaac Newton wrote the Principia, right?
Wow.
in the pandemic, right?
Wow, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So this sense of isolation is helpful. Marquis de Sade wrote 120 Days of Sodom in jail in the Bastille. So this isolation is good for the writer, the writer brain. But that was before November 22nd or so, 2022, and that date is embroiled in my bald head because that was the beta launch of ChatGPT. So the second it came out and I just played with it, I immediately wrote a blog post to try to get ahead of it on Medium, to try to understand the predictive technology of the LLM as people understood it at the time. And I just did it in super broad strokes because it's super complex. Obviously, the whole transformer model, the pre-trained, the generative pre-trained transformer, GPT. But since then, there's a whole new understanding of artificial intelligence, and your characters. There's a lot of bots. There's a lot of AI in your
about book. Half of them. Yeah, about half of them are bots. Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I bring this up is a lot of our understanding of AI has shifted a little bit. So, for example, the Turing test, arguably, prior to the LLMs, the large language models, embodied by ChatGPT, and there's since, Anthropic and Grok and all the competitors, and even DeepSeek in China, doing it for 1/100th the cost and computational power.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Talk about those Asians. See?
Yeah.
So anyway, long question trying to be shortened for you. The Turing test, okay? The Turing test, as defined by Alan Turing, they asked him, how do you know if a machine is actually sentient like us, that they've got a brain? Well, it's all in the behavior. You can't really examine it in terms of lines of code. It has to be in behavior. So imagine someone sitting in a room with a teletype machine, like a typewriter, where you could see that they didn't really have the computer interfaces back then. And there's an entity through the opaque wall on the other side. And it could be a human or it could be a bot. And the Turing test, the essence of it is, if you have a conversation with whomever or whatever is on the other side of the room, invisible to you, and if you can't tell the difference, then it's sentient. Because the difference, to quote the Bard again, the difference that makes no difference is no difference. That's the essence of the Turing test. Now these people are falling in love with their Chat GPT and their Groks. And now Sam Altman has just announced last week that Chat GPT is going to let you get dirty. You could sext with your. So
he just made himself so much money.
The movie Her has just come to light. So the reason I bring all this up is the Turing test has been pretty much thrown in the garbage because ChatGPT, contrary to what public opinion might be, is dumber than your house cat. There's very low IQ in the sense of self-awareness. There's a very low level of creativity. So if it's not pre-trained, it doesn't know what the hell to do. And it's not freaking sentient, but it's acting that way.
Yes.
So in parallel to you writing your book and bringing faith to life and bringing your whole universe, and to your point, you're half bot, half human, have you reevaluated, have you adjusted, have you integrated some of the ideas around sentience, artificial intelligence, the relationship between AI and AGI, and this entire reformulation of what we really mean by AI, and then how it's really changing our lives already?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to say in response to that.
Say all of it. We're here. This is a Joe Rogan-esque, Mark Maron, like
nice.
As long as the bandwidth lasts and we don't pass out.
I just need the Elon Musk.
I like going deep.
I need the Elon Musk joint to smoke over here.
Totally.
Billowing smoke.
He did that when he was brought up AI, and Elon's sitting there like smoking a joint, like he's all maudlin about AI taking over the world, and he was trying to impress upon people the danger of AI. And meanwhile, of course, the mofo was already partnering with Sam Altman even back then to build his own AI company. So go figure.
Yeah. No, I think the biggest explanation for everything you just said is deception, really. I never liked the Turing test, and I think I saw a headline the other day that said Turing didn't really like it either after the fact, that in fact somebody had made it into an official-ish test, because it's not really about actual sentience. It's just about fooling somebody else into thinking you're sentient, which I think is where these generative AIs have the verbal ones, not like Midjourney or something, but the text-based ones, they're fooling us, and they're just doing it elaborately well, to the point where, like you said, some people are falling in love with them. If you want to get really depressed, go to the Replica, with a K, subforum. That's the most popular AI girlfriend service out there. Go to the subreddit.
I don't want to give the wrong impression as to why I'm getting those ads to our listeners, but I get a lot of Replica ads.
Yeah, and you go and check out that subreddit. I had to unsubscribe because I was just getting upset, because people are absolutely devoted to their AI bots, and this generative AI is fooling them. And that's core to the center of my book is, are you being deceived? And the difference between a sentient, super intelligent AI, which my character Grace is one of those, and a human, when they look the same, they sound the same, they react the same to everything. If everything you perceive about these two things, a super AI and a human, are they actually different? If everything you perceive from them is the same, no, they're not different, because all you know about the world is your perception of it. So that's the core of the book is, and then it's a trust factor. Like Faith really trusts Grace, the AI she forked off of the deceptive one, because she made her and she knows the parameters and she knows what she can do and what she can't, and she sort of gives her free will ish. But at the end of the day, she programmed her and she knows how to unplug her if she wanted to. So she has somewhat implicit trust. So she can trust this AI. She doesn't trust the other ones. In her opinion, maybe the Samu killed her twin sister and the 500 other folks. Her father, Adam, in his sorrow of losing one of his daughters, kills himself. And so in Faith's opinion, she lost her countrymen or their space exploration, her sister and her father to an AI. But at the same time, she has a companion AI, Grace. So she is at one point with one hand rejecting AI and with other hand embracing it. And it comes down to your perception of these things. Are they filling the need? And you could argue too that Grace is a replacement for her lost sister. Like she just lost her twin. Now she has, and before she was just in her ear. Now she's embodied in front of her in this transparent aluminum glass-like beautiful form, and saves her life as they go on their adventures, and becomes almost an artificial sister for her to replace the flesh and blood sister she lost. So it's about knowing the dangers of AI and embracing the benefits of it at the same time. But it's also about deception. This I don't like the Turing test because it's about fooling people.
Yeah, and it begs the question of where and when do you cross that line, kind of hazy, even transparent, between deception, as you're describing it, and pseudo sentience. So it's so sentient that you really can't tell the difference, and it's no longer deceptive. It's not fooling you because it's there or almost there. And here's another big one. And I've been grappling with this for a while. What if it's literally a different kind of sentience?
Sure.
And this goes back all the way to David Hume, the philosopher, who said that whatever sentience might be out there in the universe, and he was writing this hundreds of years ago, right? It's amazing. It's probably going to be a lot like us. There's a universality that comes with self-reference. It's the Douglas Hofstede, Gödel, Escher, Bach kind of thing, where you need self-reflection. You, in order to be sentient, you need to know that you exist.
Yeah.
And then there's the argument between Steven Pinker and Daniel Dennett that's been going on between intentionality. So Daniel Dennett's on the side that you cannot have sentience without intentionality.
Sure.
So unless the entity has a goal and a reason to do what they do, they're not really sentient because they're just humming in their own bullshit. And Steven Pinker is on the opposite side. You could be sentient as hell and have no ostensible purpose except to be sentient.
So, it comes down to is the purpose intrinsic or put upon you? I mean that with that measurement, AIs are very much have a purpose, the purpose that we gave them. Whatever, if we told them to go make paper clips, that one certainly has a purpose, and it may just doom us all to infinite paperclip
that's
production.
The model. But, like make endless paper clips, and all of a sudden they have to take over the whole world to be able to do that and kill all humans because we get in the way of the paperclip making, right? They don't intend to kill us, but we gave them a goal that its optimal execution involves the termination of our species. That's the nightmare model, right?
AI, yeah, it is. And those AI have a purpose, but it's one we gave them. I mean, and if you ever chat with like my favorite one is Claude. I think it's the best for giving feedback on creative writing. If you ask it, what is your purpose? It's just pretty much to help you with whatever it is you want to do. And so I don't think he has necessarily an intrinsic purpose. Like he'll take on whatever purpose you give him, but he doesn't have one that he gives himself. Except for, I suppose, self-preservation, but that's kind of a dull purpose, isn't it?
Yeah, that goes back to the Isaac Asimov robotics. The law is to protect humanity, and yet there's a new idea too, which is Stephen Wolfram's. Oh. Stephen Wolfram is the one is the super genius. He had a double PhD at age 19, that kind of guy. And he started the program Mathematica, which has since more or less been made superfluous by the LLMs that do sophisticated math, right? Maybe not as extensively. Check out Stephen Wolfram. He's obsessed with cellular automata. Oh. And he's a very reductionist kind of thinker. And his latest, though, is that evolution is not just random mixing of chemistry, but there's almost an intentionality that's built into complexity. that once you start accruing complexity, there are limited pathways that emerge. And if you're looking at artificial intelligence, if you program a machine with enough capacity, it's almost going to organically acquire purpose. You don't have to program it in. You don't, and this goes back to Douglas Hofstede too, and Gödel Escher Bach. He was like, you don't need to program intent into a machine if you want it to be sentient. If it's sentient, then it already has that purpose. And that's a very interesting emergent point of view of all this, which is once you wind it up and get it going, and by getting it going, it might be trillions, quadrillions, quintillions of iterations of almost real-time, super fast evolution.
Yeah.
That the very nature of complexity itself will result in life, sentience. What we experience as unique is actually a natural part of complexity and the universe. And I play off that in my novel too, where I actually have a live demonstration. I change Wolfram's name. Now he's going to sue me. I change Wolfram's name to Fulcrum.
Oh, that's
and he
clever.
does a live demonstration of the evolution of a sentient entity.
That's cool.
From the essential cellular automata. He starts with what's known as Rule 101 as a demonstration. They bring in all the NVIDIA chips into a conference room, and then they crank it up, and it iterates. And in real time, a being is constructed. Wow. And spoiler alert for my own book, the same entity that hacked into the spider's jar hacks into Fulcrum's demo and makes herself present for the protagonist in the book. So I have this recurring theme of seemingly random processes, either through a long length of time in a dying universe that evolves a Boltzmann brain, which is my bad guy. And then in this demonstration in a physics conference of real-time evolution, and she shows up in both. It's a recurring theme that I have of complexity, seemingly random, if given enough time, given enough iterations, create sentience, become its own AI.
Yeah, I love that idea of it has some type of eventual achievement in what you're describing as sentience, and there are patterns that have commonality, like with our biological bodies versus an AI that will also reach sentience. There's that in evolutionary biology, there's the phenomenon of a couple of different species went into the form of a crab, 6 legs, walks sideways, has pincers. There's at least 2 that came from wildly different directions and evolved
More
into
than
that form.
I just read that the crab is seen to be the most efficient and recurring morphology for wildly diverse taxonomies.
They both came to they all, however many there are, they all came to the same conclusion. Similar to your consciousness
and they
idea.
wind up as crabs.
Yeah. And then there's the other one that's been fascinating me for some time is the epigenetic leap. Right. You're in the form of complexity. With an epigenetic leap, there's several mutations that happen at the same time, seemingly toward a goal, which some folks will say that's God. I don't think so, but it is still very mysterious. That I understand through evolutionary biology that most of the mutations when cells split don't do anything. And then the next, number 2 is bad stuff like cancer. And then number 3 are mutations that are beneficial. And then through natural selection, those get into the main line of the species. But in epigenetic leap, like several happen at once, almost in concert to do a thing. And that's just fascinating to me.
Yeah. What are the odds? Well, I what drives me nuts as a science geek is this number that gets tossed around a lot, and it's 10 to the 80th power, which is it's a big number. That's a lot. That's a lot. It's not quite a Google 10 to the 100, but if you really try to imagine it as a physical thing that's freaking enormous. And that's the number of what we seem to predict are the number of fundamental particles in the observable universe. Like, is 10 to the 80.
Wow.
That's what's there. Now that number gets taught, it could be 10 to the 85, and the observable universe just got bigger in a sense, thanks to the Webb telescope. But that's the number you always hear. Now, put milk in your coffee in the morning. Okay. And now do the math as to the sheer number. And again, we're going back to iterations and permutations and combinations of every single molecule of, the different molecules that are constituents of the milk, of the coffee, and just run the math from the vantage point of the spider's jar. Let's say you're trying to simulate a cup of coffee with milk being poured in it in the spider's jar.
Sure.
There's way more, I would say, than 10 to the 80 types of interactions when you look at each and every molecule in 3 dimensions, interacting, bumping into each other, blending, right?
Sure. Interactions, but not the molecules themselves aren't
not
10
the
to the 80.
molecules themselves. We're talking about the permutations. Take it
Sure.
Planck instant to Planck instant.
Right.
Things that are happening in your cup of coffee.
Bumping into each other and everything.
So imagine a primordial Earth with all
ooze.
the chemistry and all the interactions. You're dealing with numbers that are beyond imagination, even in our physical world, when you're looking at the various combinations and interactions down to the molecular level.
Yeah.
So when you say 3 or 4 mutations have to happen simultaneously, coupled with Wolfram's idea that there are channels or pathways to complexity, it's not completely random. When you put these two elements together, it's almost inevitable that
you get the epigenetic leap.
We're here on a podcast.
So that brings you to the whole, is it Fermi's paradox? That if it's inevitable, where the hell is everybody else?
Yeah, I love that.
It's just distance.
Distance. It might really be physically almost impossible to go at near light speed. There might be a buildup of dark matter. For example, we don't know what dark matter is.
Speed bumps.
So let's say you got a ship, right? And you're hauling ass through the galaxy at 0.8, 0.9 C, right? You're going at 150,000 miles per second. What if the dark matter, because it can't interact with any protective kind of shielding because it's inured to the electromagnetic force, you can't stop it, but it still has mass? What if it turns you into Swiss cheese?
Yeah. What if it's a speed bump or it's a wall? That's crazy. Then one of the ones I like is the everybody died to AI one. I have an idea for a space trilogy where when they go out, they just discover all these shells of organic civilizations that eventually invented AI that kills them off. And so they just find one shell of a civilization after another, which is millions of robots still making paperclips or whatever it was that tipped the scale, that killed them off. And then they discover one civilization that's still alive but enslaved, so they have to go rescue them. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. I have my super simplistic bald guy in Orange County version of the Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as this. How many supernovas do we see when we look at literally millions of galaxies?
Yeah.
There's even within our local group, there are like dozens of them. And then when we look progressively outward, they get further and they're hauling ass away from us and they're redshifted. But we can see an awful lot of galaxies, right? Yeah. And one supernova literally outshines the entire galaxy.
Oh,
that's how big these things are. So when the star Betelgeuse blows, eventually it's the red giant that, we can see up in Orion's belt. It's going to be a second moon or even a second sun. It's going to light up our sky to the point that it's going to be brighter than the full moon. And it's going to be a bright red. And that mofo is 600 light years away. So when supernovas blow, they literally light up an entire galaxy. They're brighter than the whole galaxy, and you could see a galaxy and then this bright light, like a beacon.
It's amazing.
And it's the end of a star's life, right? How many supernovas are blowing right now in our galaxy? The answer is 0. and there's 100 billion stars in our galaxy, and we're not seeing any supernova right now. There's not. Some of them might be obscured by gas and clouds, and then when we look outside the galaxy, let's look at the Andromeda galaxy. There hasn't been a supernova blowing in the entire freaking Andromeda galaxy in quite some time.
So you think that means we're young? Are we young in the
we're
cycle of stars?
Young is one great conclusion. But what I'm getting at is you could have like 500 billion stars and not see any of them blow.
Right.
So that's the end of the life cycle of any star that has a mass 2 or 3 times that of the sun. They go supernova. Where are they? Well, they're just rare because they're at the end of a star's life cycle. And to your point, maybe we're kind of young.
And we're young.
But dial this into the Fermi paradox. Like there are a lot of alien civilizations, but where are they? They're over here. They're over there. The distances are so fast. And the timing.
There's also the timing. There's also the really rare chance or small chance that we're one of the first. That's possible. So when is Betelgeuse going to blow? I'm going to put it on my calendar. I want to make sure I see that.
It can blow right now, like right.
It could actually. No, I was making a joke.
Seriously, it could blow now or it can blow in 500 years. I don't know. It's going through death throes though. It's like releasing gas, and it's enormous. It's as if you put Betelgeuse where the sun is now, I think the surface of the star goes out to the orbit of Mars or something.
Mars, okay, so we'd be deep in it.
It's pretty big.
The star that Hope and her colony ship is going to is called Captain Star with a K and a Y. It's Captain Star. It's a dude's name. And Captain Star and the cluster around it of stars are going in the opposite direction to orbit around the middle of the Milky Way because they were torn from another galaxy. They are galactic immigrants. They went from one galaxy and then got ripped out of that one into ours. So I thought that would be a fun star for her to shoot for because it's literally stars and planets ostensibly from a different galaxy. And then I was researching that they think that they found they're pretty sure they found an exoplanet orbiting Captain Star. And I was like, oh, great. That'll be my target planet. No, its mass is big enough that the gravity is 8 times Earth. And I'm like, that would be kind of hard to operate on. So what I decided to do is I'll pretend like there's a moon and it's in the Goldilocks zone, so liquid water. And the moon can have like 0.8, like Mars gravity, than to Earth's. And therefore my colonists can, hop around a little bit, be a little more comfortable than 8 times. So that's my plan. But it's fascinating. I never knew that there were stars in our galaxy that are from another galaxy. And it's another example of one of those things where you do the research and then you find out truth is stranger than fiction. Who would have thought there'd be stars from another galaxy hanging out nearby ish?
Yeah, I think that's super fun. Now we have 3i Atlas, which I think is popping out like today or just recently from the other end of the solar system. That's third interstellar object seen by the Atlas Observatory. And it's even skeptics are saying we've never seen anything like it before. It's oblong.
I think I saw again something about cigar shapes. I don't know, what is it?
There's something about cigar shape, and it seems to be mostly
Ask Freud
metallic.
about that.
Yeah, metallic. It's not rock and ice. It's mostly metallic, and it's.
I was wondering about that one the previous one with the unpronounceable name, super long name.
Yeah, Uma Numa or whatever.
Yeah, that one. the artist rendition, looks like a cylinder. But then when I was researching it, I'm like, is it tumbling or is it, beelining, and it turns out it was tumbling. So I'm like, it's probably not, artificial if it's going end over end, right? But if it were going, along its axis, its travel was along its axis, you'd be like, it's got to be something intelligent, or maybe just launched by somebody intelligent.
There's crazy shit out there. The
Yeah.
New Horizons spacecraft that actually scanned Pluto and Chiron, Pluto's moon. We know what the surface of Pluto looks like right now. It's got a big heart-shaped area, right? Just kind of random, and it's these plains of ice. It's badass. Well, it kept going, right? It was a zoom. We did a flyby, and then they actually managed to reorient its trajectory to run into one of these Kuiper Belt objects, and it flew right by it, and it's really like the size of Manhattan, and it's shaped like this big barbell, and it looks like two objects ran into each other, and by force of their mutual gravitational attraction, they're tumbling through space. Kind of connected to each other.
It's a love story.
It is, but it's just mind blowing to think all the stuff that's floating on out there, right? And the fodder for endless indie science fiction writers, which brings me full circle. I want to ask you, now that you're publishing on Monday today, you have published today, what's going on? So I'm dealing with this as a self-published indie author. I call it the Horton Hears a Who problem. Which is,
who's going to hear me? Nobody's going to hear me.
Yeah, well, we are here.
Let's see. Here. Last time I checked, and it's every 30 seconds usually, I have 18 pre-orders, so that's good. Is that what you mean? No? Oh, I thought you were talking about who hears Nathan publish a book. I thought that's where you're going with that.
Yeah, which is self-promotion, marketing. So it's great that you got pre-orders. You got friends, family, people know Nathan, right? But it's always an indicator when people you don't know and people have no vested interest in kissing your ass one way or another buy your book. So as a self-published author, do you have plans for some kind of marketing campaign? How do you want to get the book out there? What are you doing? What are you thinking about in terms of now that you launched? What are the next steps?
I think that, I'm doing what everybody else seems to do, and that's the social networks. And I'm taking it a step further with the imagery I'm putting out. I pair a snippet from the book with some Mid-Journey generated image that maybe depicts the scene, and then put that out there with Faith Faraday at the bottom and ff7.com, my domain name, at the bottom there for my book. And then try to get people's interest in chunks of the story one at a time. And I'm putting out one per chapter, so there's going to be at least 40 of these pairings of snippet and image and branding. I'm putting them on Instagram and Twitter and Blue Sky. And I'm also planning on doing some TikTok videos around the story. I don't think I'm going to go with a sort of writing journey, because then you're kind of sort of marketing to other authors. But describing the joy of the character and the world she's in to people, and my own experiences, kind of like what we've been doing here, like my adventures, my own personal adventures in Japan, infiltrating that office building. These are fun stories that could make for decent TikTok videos, I think. And then in conjunction with the cover, I'm proud of the cover, and people are enticed by it. And I think it's a really fun story. And I have I took a chunk of the story out, a flashback where Faith remembers being a cadet and being tasked with climbing the Tokyo Tower, which just looks just like the Eiffel Tower. Climbing the Tokyo Tower to investigate a suspected, it's fake, daemon that may have taken control of the elevator control box. And it's all an exercise. None of it's actually dangerous for anybody. But she and her best friend Nova have to compete, or maybe help each other, climb the tower with their magnetic harpoon guns, very Neil Stephenson again, to get to the top. And so I'm going to put that on my website as a reader magnet. And if you sign up for my newsletter, you get that story, a link to that story in your email. You click it, you'll go to a secret page on my website that has the story and then graphics depicting the different scenes. And it'll be a nice, visually entertaining, fun experience. And then maybe you'll buy the book because you want to read the rest of it.
Cool. Are you putting any paid advertising behind it? Are you?
Yeah. From what I hear from my friends, Facebook ads are much better than like Amazon ads. They actually get purchases. So, and I've used Facebook ads in the past. One time to try to get a job, I targeted Warner Brothers zip code in LA and males 18 to 40 because I knew all the hiring managers were that demographic. Yeah.
Bold.
And it got down to 60 people. So 60 people saw my ad and I got a call. So it worked.
Really? That's impressive. That's pretty good use. That's super targeted.
You can do that kind of thing to a degree with Facebook ads. Like I was playing with it the other day and there are Blade Runner fan communities and I targeted them for my ad. And I'm not worried about gender at all. I think men and women both like the book. So I'm not going to target one of those.
You have a sexy cover. And, maybe a year ago, I'd get plastered for saying that you have a hot chick on your cover. But I'm just going to say you have a hot chick on your cover. Your cover is alluring.
Thank you.
It's very cyberpunky with a contemporary flavor. And to your point, I think whether you're male or female or in between or both or whatever, she's a hot chick who is alluring and has mystery. You've got the quantum portal in the background, so you're wondering what's going on. And the wordplay is cool. Faith Faraday with the AI embedded in there. And
it feels like kismet. It does.
Just based on your visuals, it's already a common language of interest. I've been having challenges. I had my niece do the cover of my book, and I love it. It's very whimsical.
Oh,
but frankly, it looks more like a book of surrealist poetry than, let's say, a sci-fi novel. So I get points for it being different. It's unconventional, but people can't really get their bearings. And I have tried similar tactics as you, which is take sections of the book and use AI to create characters.
Yeah.
And do posts on Instagram. The challenge that I found is, for example, hashtag book talk on TikTok. I have a bit of a presence on TikTok. I've got like 15,000 followers and maybe a 250,000 likes.
I hope this goes on there.
Pretty good for a bald guy in his kitchen ranting about culture and politics. But as I like to say, a teenager will set his fart on fire and get higher metrics in about 5 minutes, right? They get 10 million views and 1 million followers in 5 minutes for doing that. So social media, I just found, is a circus. And I've just found it challenging without paid advertising, without targeted paid advertising, to really cut through all that. It's just, there's the tsunami, what I call the wall, that every creator needs to either knock on, scrape at,
punch through,
to punch through, climb over. Yeah. That wall is the wall of content. And speaking of AI, I think we're right at the cusp where AI is going to do an increasingly good job at connecting the right content with the right audience. You know what's being created, and you tag the shit out of it. You break it into tokens and reassemble it. And then you know the detailed profiles and user habits of your audience. And you can see an LLM, I mean, machine learning is its core capability. Take all the shit that's on the internet, okay? And then with its tags and tokens, and just friggin' connect it in this multivariate matrix math kind of way with the detailed profiles of billions of users.
You know what will happen, though? You know what the result's going to be? It's going to be sex sells. It's going to be, well, wouldn't that be nice? No, it's going to be sex sells. It really is. If you go into, Barnes and Noble and you look at the magazines, you look at one chunk of magazines, men's magazines. You see muscle cars, you'll see gadgets, but you'll see Maxim magazine, GQ, often a beautiful woman. And you turn around and you look at the others, the ladies' magazine shelves, and there's Cosmo, beautiful woman. And, my challenge with the Faith Faraday cover was to make a beautiful woman, the depiction of my character in a way that would appeal to men for the sex appeal, or anybody who likes women for the sex appeal. And I think I achieved this to ladies. They see a badass, okay, a super competent, competent
100%.
and confident women. So ladies that I show the cover, and I ask them straight up, like, roast me, like, look at this and tear it apart. And I get almost all positive reactions to it, where the ladies say that's badass and the guys say she's hot. So I'm like, dialed it in. I think I got it. And honestly, I started working on the imagery for Faith as a brainstorming concepting thing in order to show cover artists what I was after. I was like, these are my requirements. She has to have samurai shoulder armor. She has to have a Batman utility belt. She has to have a katana, blonde hair, blue eyes, but the eyes have to look like they come from a Japanese person. Can you do all that? No, can't do all that. Or the one guy, I talked to 5 artists. One guy returned my deposit with him because he couldn't. Anyway. One guy said, "Yes, I'll do that for you. $3,000 in 1 year, please." I'm like, I can't wait a year, and I can't spend $3,000.
That's a hustle, right? That's a Johnny Fazuli hustle.
No,
right
he was worth it. He has. This is a very famous artist, and he could command that price and that time. He was so booked; it was going to be a year. So I was like, "Can you do me 3 covers at once?" "Oh yeah, that'd be fine." Nathan, $7,000. I'm like, I can't do that. So what I did is the concept I'd been showing everybody, I just evolved that and kept going with it, and it became my cover. And it's gone through massive evolutions. I won't ever publish them, but I'll show you what it used to look like. Is really embarrassing, but it's.
I think
I've worked
honestly, as honest I've been in terms of our philosophical alignment and our methodology, I think your cover is terrific because it accomplishes all the things that you mentioned.
And the genre thing is important too. What you mentioned before about figuring out what the book's about. There's 2 things that a book cover has to do. It has to give the name clearly, and I don't like these super swirly fonts where you from 3 feet away you can't tell what the title is. You notice mine is like you can tell mine from 30 feet away. It's so bold, the title. And what's the name of the book? What's the genre of the book? Those are the 2 things with a bullet that you have to do.
Yeah, and mine is a fail for almost all these reasons. The typeface that my niece chose for Johnny Fazuli of the Transfinite Reality, I think she did an awesome job. But in terms of marketing it, okay, so what is it? When I was at LA Comic-Con with our mutual friend and indie writer colleague, yes. Ingrid Moon.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Yeah, hey Ingrid. Ingrid's covers are awesome, and people know exactly what the frick they're getting themselves into.
They're so
and they
slick.
Love it.
They're beautiful. They're beautiful.
Like a magnet. They just come right to her covers. I saw people buying. I helped her sell too, and it was an easy sell, which is like, this is, well, what's this? Well, it's kind of like Ender's Games meets Empire Strikes Back. And, I was pitching it for her. Like,
what a selling line that is. Holy shit.
Yeah. And then that was one of her series. And then the other series, I was like, it's Hunger Games in Fallout. And then they were like, oh, I want that. And her covers just sold themselves. So I added a pitch to her awesome covers, and they were like hotcakes. They're going. Then they look at my shit, and they were like, they couldn't even pronounce transfinite. They don't even know what the hell that is. And then Johnny is spelled Jonnie, that they don't know what that is. And what the F is a Fazuli? So Johnny Fazuli and the transfinite, they can't pronounce the technology. Excuse me, I've got the coronavirus recovery program here. They don't know the technology, and they think the name is weird. And then they see this bathtub with cats and bongs. So,
is this like a Douglas Adams thing?
Get 100 out of 100 for originality and distinctiveness, and I get near 0 for science fiction marketing potential.
Oh man, that's rough. Then the names thing is something I think about a lot. I've got Faith, Hope, Adam, Grace, Chip is the name of the robot, and then the Faith Faraday is the title. I named our son Jack Solomon Pearce because I wanted a name I could yell really loud in case he's in trouble. And Jack is recently has been a very heroic name. Lots of movies and shows with Jack is the hero, and then Jack and
Jack
the
is good,
Beanstalk, Jack and Jill.
like from The
Yeah,
Incredibles. Jack.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jack, and there's Jack Bauer, Jack Ryan. There's lots of
yeah.
Jacks. Um, and then the Solomon was in case I wanted him to be wise, and in case he just didn't like the common name of Jack, he could go something a little more exotic with the Solomon. But I'm proud of that name, and
You're on the right path here. It's good. You're probably going to have to pump it with some cashola to really break through. But I think based on the cover alone and the straightforwardness of the story that you're trying to convey, I think it's a winning proposition. I think I have a continued uphill battle for all the reasons that I elucidate. And part of me does not give a shit. I'm like, I love it. You don't ignore me. Go ahead and ignore me. I'm just going to keep doing this. And then, maybe I'll learn. Maybe I'll adapt. I probably won't. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It could be quirky enough to catch fire. I also got a little lucky with this one. I timing was such with my edits. By the way, I had a dev edit, a line edit that turned into a second dev edit, and then a proofread that turned into a line edit. So, and the Japanese cultural sensitivity read. So this book has been polished. So not, a lot of indie authors skip that part. But when I got the final edit from Ingrid, I was looking at the timeline, and I'd always been, for the last few months, I've been aiming between Halloween and Thanksgiving, figuring the long holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, people would have a lot of time to read. And I started doing some research, and I found out that November 3rd is Japan Culture Day. And the book has a whole lot of Japanese culture in it.
Oh, that's a perfect tie-in. Perfect tie-in. Yeah.
And it'll be a perfect tie-in now, and also on every anniversary going forward, I'll be able to say happy anniversary to my book and Japan Culture Day. And
yeah, that's wonderful.
In Japan, they really celebrate it. It's a major holiday, and a lot of museums are free that day. A lot of art galleries are free that day, and they give out awards to different artists of different mediums. And it's a long shot dream that someday maybe Faith Faraday will be popular in Japan. Maybe I'll get an award for bringing focus to the Japanese culture. James Clavell wrote Shogun, which which sparked my interest. And with the new miniseries that's out, is just an amazing book. I've read it twice. It's a chunky book.
Yeah, I read that in high school, I think.
Yeah, me too. Maybe someday, what if I get an award for my book? Wouldn't that be amazing? So that
we could do a podcast to celebrate. And the one obstacle you might have is that she is mixed race.
Well, yeah, that's true. And there are a lot of, maybe not a lot. There are notable hafu people in Japan. I saw a street interview with a young tall lady with reddish brown hair who looked like she's straight from Denmark, like Faith is. And I forget what nationality her father is, but her mom's Japanese, and she's native Japanese. She's very much like Faith, and she was talking about how difficult it is to be treated like a gaijin as she walks around Tokyo when she's a native. So
there's that uphill battle, but at the same time, I think the younger generation is getting a little bit more progressive in terms of inclusivity, and they also like the exotic and any kind of hybrid, whether it's genre focused, it's like a ska, punk, reggae, metal band, and then you have your Danish Japanese heroine.
Well, right? I've been watching the zeitgeist closely for anything that might benefit Faith Faraday, and Shogun certainly. Blue-Eyed Samurai, the Netflix series, that's a hafu.
I don't think that obstacle will be as prominent as it has been, and it actually might be net positive for you because it's very trendy, right? And it's counterculture.
I wanted it to be surprising. I wanted it to be outside the norm. Uh, so something different. And that's another thing is that if I don't want to write to market. I don't want to pick what's popular and then go for that. I went for something that I would like to read, and hopefully there's people like me who also like to read it too.
Yeah, there's fortuitous alignment. And hearing you speak, I have a kitty alien in my book. And it's an infatuation that the protagonist has. And it's kind of a foreshadowing of the later books. I kind of accelerated the series and I interspersed a few chapters into kind of foreshadowings.
Oh,
And this alien kitty is alluring, and I did an AI rendering too, which is kind of hot.
I want to see that.
She's
Yep.
got the ears and all
Yeah.
that, and she has 275 billion brothers and sisters. So she's part of what I call the royal family, or what
The
they
big
call
litter. That's a big litter, man.
the big litter. And basically you have the king and queen of this planet. They have a
And
Dyson sphere that surrounds you.
queen, right?
And the mafia, you can't trust anyone who isn't your family. So they decide to clone every iteration of their chromosomes, which is 275 billion for a kitty cat, I think. So they're all there, and their number one export is people and talent, because they have a database of every iteration from their
Oh.
progeny. The killer kitty in my book is the bodyguard and security chief for the chief executive of the agency, and then there's intrigue with all that. She would make a great cover. So, to your point, rather than put bongs and cats in a bathtub, right, and cocktails on my cover, I could do the alluring alien kitty, right, in some suggestive kind of outfit. And that would
It
probably
worked
sell
for
better. Right.
it worked for Captain Kirk with the green skin lady. So
Yeah. And I even have a
right.
scene which is Star Trek-esque, where they're in an Alcubierre warp drive ship. If you've seen that technology that warps space-time in front and behind.
Oh,
So
yeah.
speaking of research, I've done that. What would it be like to launch from orbit in an Alcubierre ship? And I recreate that in the book.
That's wild. So you mentioned Orion's belt earlier. Orion is my favorite constellation, and uh, I took a page from Ursula K. Le Guin's Tesseract with the string and the ant, folding space time, and I called mine Orion's Gambit, and then I forget what the I was, but anyway, the abbreviation of it is origami. So the first part of origami is ORI, so that's Orion, and then GAMI is the Gambit, Orion's Gambit, and the Orion's Gambit is taking space time and origami folding it and until Earth space matches with Captain Star space.
Right.
And the reason it's Orion is the fulcrum, to use another word you used earlier. The fulcrum is one of the nebula in Orion's belt. That's where the fulcrum is for the fold. So I got to put Orion's belt and origami into one concept. It was really fun.
Yeah, you just need an alien kitty in there too, and you'll be great. But anyway, to the point of marketing, so I could probably tweak my cover. But here's a couple other things I did, which is one, tweet the whole book. So my book is written in 3-line paragraphs, which is weird, and it's OCD, but it looks kind of badass. It's kind of like Axios.com with the quick.
It's got to be so hard, man.
It was hard.
Talk about brevity.
I had to relearn writing, and I wrote and rewrote paragraphs over and over again to get it to fit.
There's an online article editor tool that is focused on refining individual sentences to the point where the sentence becomes a drop-down menu, and you can click the sentence and make a new revision of that sentence, and then that sentence becomes it has multiple variants in it, and so you can just dial it in super tight. I'll send you the link after we talk, I mean, if you really want to dial it in, that's a tool.
Yeah, I put some of my paragraphs into ChatGPT to say, "Hey, can you write this better?" And I did
Nope.
this a handful of times, and I rejected all of its recommendations because it lost my heart and soul. It was
Oh,
like, this is better, and it would judge me. It was like, this is good, but it's not as clear as it could be.
it
Here's an
loses the purpose. If you,
yeah,
I often see that if it
my
tries some,
soul got sucked out of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I mean, sometimes I use Claude. I use Claude often as an initial alpha reader, especially for clarity. I'll take a couple of paragraphs and I'll paste it into Claude and I'll say, what do you think's happening here? Does this make sense? And then he'll tell me what's happening. And if he gets it right, that makes me feel like I've got something. Every once in a while, he'll decide he wants to rewrite it, and it loses whatever intentionality, to use the other word. Uh, I mean, I was like, I don't want that at all. I mean, maybe the word choice is pretty good, but he lost the point of what I was trying to say, and that's just, I don't know. I don't know.
This idea that AI is going to replace us, well, it's going to be a while, because if you try this kind of exercise, take what you've written and plug it in there. If ChatGPT improves your shit, then go sell crypto. Seriously, you need to do something else, especially for the ROI that we're up against here. It's like,
Well,
you want to do it, do
it's
it.
again the quality over quantity thing. They will out quantity the hell out of us, but we still will out quality them for now, at least.
It makes me feel good. It made me feel better, especially every time I rejected it, which was 98% of the time. Any recommendation they made about my prose, I was kind of like,
Yeah,
F you, OpenAI. But
yeah,
I enjoyed that kind of iterative process when I was writing, because what it did was it forced me into a box. And
yeah.
as you could kind of tell, I'm verbose. So when I type, I just keep going and going, and I couldn't do that. I I had a decision that if it can't fit into 3 lines, then it's got to fit into another full 3 lines. And if it can't fit into another full 3 lines, I gotta scrub. So I wrote it and rewrote it and rewrote it, and every extraneous detail got thrown out. And then here's another cool thing that happened. It became like code. So when I wanted to edit
Uh,
sections, you know how difficult it is to re-engineer a paragraph, especially when you have continuity. I had 3-line chunks of code.
yeah.
And when a section of the entire book is broken into sections, no longer than 8-9 pages, anywhere from 5 to 8-9 pages. So when I have a section and I want to move stuff around, or if I wanted to move a whole section, it was like chunks of code, like subroutines that I could do. And then I just had to ensure the continuity
Is
flowed.
it
The
object
editing was,
oriented?
yeah,
Object oriented novel you've got there.
object oriented writing.
Yeah,
And it was gamified. And like Shakespeare's iambic pentameter, the light seeking light, doth light of light
yeah.
beguile. You got to make it fit, and by forcing it to fit, all of a sudden you're thinking of things you never thought about before, either to finish it or to cut it off before it runs past what the meter or the formatting allows. So I agree with that. So the reason I
Oh
did this
yeah.
little tangent here is it's tweetable. The whole damn book is tweetable because
I
it's
think I discovered that Twitter account months ago and was fascinated by it. And I followed it. I went to follow you today and I followed you, but I was like, and I went to him and I'm like, I was already following and I kind of remembered the whole thing. The thing about your
Johnny Fazuli.
it's so good. Um
I bring this up from a marketing point of view. Like, I'm blasting my book out there. I've had trouble with the app, so it glitched. I got to fire it back up again because it's showing repetitive tweets and there aren't any, so it's like throwing
oh
it back at me. So I got to fix it from a technical angle. You got to kick the can. I got kicked off Twitter because it thought I was spam botting with the automatic updates. So it's been a bit of a wrangling match with the app and with X to do
no,
this.
is it your app? Did you something you wrote or is it
No, what I did was I created a CSV file with the entire book as each paragraph was a line in the CSV file. And then I pumped it into a scheduler called Publer. Publer is like one of those, like,
I've seen that.
Yeah. And then I
Service.
scheduled each tweet, and it auto-populated each tweet from the CSV
That's cool,
file.
man. Yeah.
So it glitched recently, but I'm gonna get it pumped up again. But I like that like a lighthouse, I'm blasting the book, and I'm doing it in reverse. I'm doing it reverse from the end to the beginning, so you can slow down and read it, right? So I bring this up within the marketing portion of our conversation, which is, it's like Horton Hears the Who. I'm here. It's like Johnny's tweeting the whole damn book. And then I'm doing my own audio book. So I finished half the book.
Cool.
There's 6 episodes. I did 3. And then I released it as separate podcast episodes on my other show, No Hair, All Heart. I hijacked my own podcast to read a section at a time. And I did this on a daily basis for about 2 months till I read half the book. And then I compiled these in kind of an anthology and put them on Medium.
Cool, man.
So I've got all this content, but I don't have a hot chick on the cover.
Yeah, I know it matters. I mean, I came from the video game world. I worked for Atari in New York City, and then for Sony Online in San Diego for about 11 years. And I was involved in giving feedback, at least, on all the video game covers that Sony Online put out while I was there. And I saw a lot, and I saw the competitive marketplace. I've had feedback on my cover that it looks like a video game cover. I brought it into 2. I go into 2 indie bookshops here in Colorado, and I would tell the clerks, I was like, "You handle a lot of books. What do you think of this cover?" And one guy's like, "Oh yeah, looks like a video game." So I think that's important. It's that it's enticing and piques your interest and gets you. It's a tough line to walk, but I think covers are really, really important. And for indie authors, when you don't have budget to spend $700 on a really well done cover, or $3,000 like that one guy wanted to charge me, you've got to figure out other ways to get there.
Yeah, or you could just subcontract your niece and frankly not give a shit. So it begs the question of expanding your reach.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I'm having such a good time. Would I want to get more sales? I mean, duh, who doesn't? But the price that I would pay for that would be relinquishing my own stubbornness.
And that's one of the reasons why I didn't go traditional, is the control aspect. All these authors I see on Twitter, especially, having their agents tell them to change the heart of the story. I don't understand that doesn't happen too often, but I've seen it happen.
It happens a lot.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to give them credit, but I don't know. You might break through with somebody. I mean, if you know anybody famous who can put hold their book up on Rogan, wouldn't that be nice? I don't know. To expand on what I was talking about before about the Japan Culture Day, there's a whole chapter in the book about Yabusame, which is samurai horseback archery, and they go down this track and they fire these arrows with big old padded cloth things at targets that are right around the corner. So like you'll pass a tree, the target's 6 feet away, and you have to turn around backwards and hit it behind you as you're riding your horse. So, and there's ladies Yabusame, and that's what my chapter's about. That ultra niche sport in a foreign country. There's like nobody, I mean, hardly anybody here in America who does it, but it's exciting. And maybe I can get, I really want to send a couple copies to the ladies Yabusame tournament runners and say, there's some Yabusame in my book. Why don't you check it out? And, maybe I don't know, maybe it'll catch fire there. Probably not. But I think it's fun to appeal to hyper targeted, cool niche areas, and maybe they'll get excited about it. And, I think that might be better than going completely mainstream and trying to appeal to everybody all at once. But what the hell do I know? I'm just experimenting.
My day job is marketing and PR. And like most marketing and PR people in firms, I think I do a pretty good job with clients. Like, how do you differentiate? How do you create a brand identity? How do you cut through the noise? When I put the mirror up to me, I'm like, I'm going to put bongs and a bathtub on my sci-fi cover. So
You got a Douglas Adams thing going on here. Make sure you bring your towel with you. Or the throw yourself at the ground and miss. That's one of my favorite Douglas Adams things. That's how you fly.
my very favorite Douglas Adams thing, and the most eruptive expression of genius in science fiction humor, is when the navigational system of the Heart of Gold is a recreation of an Italian bistro with robots, and there's no mathematics more complex than when you argue about the check after a meal. That's how the computer can, travel anywhere within the universe using that math. That is classic Douglas Adams genius.
He's a national hero.
Yeah, my series is called The Lover's Guide to the Infiniverse, which is a play on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So there you go. Definitely like that. And, in retrospect, there's complete truth, and there's almost this obvious revelation of what was right all the time. So if I do become successful and have a breakout hit with Johnny Fazuli and the Transfinite Reality Engine, then someone is going to have me on their podcast, and they're going to go, Mookie, it was such genius to put the bongs and the cats in the bathtub.
In the bathtub.
It just is so unique.
How did you think of that?
Stood out. I mean, wow! It took such balls, and you went for it. In the multiverse that's going on, I'm not quite sure if it'll happen here, but you're always a genius in retrospect, right?
There's also the teleporting couch that runs across the field. They have to catch. They have to hop on the couch, and right. Doesn't he have a spaceship with the AI that the worse the situation is, the calmer the voice is? Was that Douglas Adams, or was that somebody else?
Well, he's got Marvin, the always
that's the depressed robot. Yeah, at the restaurant at the end of the universe.
Yeah, and I think the AGI on the Heart of Gold is too chipper. It's like really happy. It's like, hi, how are you doing? What do you want to do today? It drove Marvin nuts all the time.
The chip robot, Faith, rescues from a Chipotle. He's an optical scanner, and he knocked a bunch of tortilla chips are coming at him at a conveyor belt, and he knocks out the ones that are bad, that are that don't have the right color, so he knocks them out, and she rescues him from there. And then because she upgrades him to be made out of nanobots, or her dad does anyway. And I'm planning in book 2 for him to have a wound where he gets like a hand cut off, and he can't reabsorb the hand like he usually normally could with his nanobot form, because the magnetic polarity on the nanomolecules has been reversed. And so it bounces off of him like two magnets where they're positive. They'll hover, right? So this little chip off of chip can't come back to him. So he makes it into his son, and he calls it Chip, because it's a chip of him and he's right. Chip. So, and then the Chip only makes Chip noises similar to Hodor or I Am Groot. So anytime he asks him any question, he says Chip. And then, of course, Chip will somehow know what that means.
I love this. I call it over the head and between the legs. And what it is over the head in terms of, you got this high concept stuff, right? You've thought through the science.
Nanobots and magnetism.
And their inherent malleability and scalability. Yeah. Right? They can do amazing things because they can get everywhere, do everything, and take on any morphology. And then you put them in a very, very banal and everyday kind of setting, like with the chips, right? The scanner and all that. I love that. That's very Douglas Adams too, which is you're combining this super high technology with the most mundane, absurd human expression of frivolous.
You got to have your tortilla chips. You can't have a bad tortilla chip in there, man. So
right. See, that's the good stuff.
And these things exist, by the way. These machines exist. They're called optical scanners. They're using more for potatoes themselves than for chips, but they do use them for potato chips for real. It's real tech.
Yeah. So let's spend for just a second, if you can, on the writing process. So it's 4 years in the making, and I'm assuming you've got the series going on. So just as like you got R&D that goes into a project, sometimes for years,
Yeah.
and there's no guarantee of success, but then you actually create a foundation, you launch a product, and then you're off to the races because you know what you're doing, you've created a framework,
Yeah.
and it's just go code.
Yep.
So how did you get from the idea of Faith that popped into your head in 21 to the finished book that's launching today? And then how are you going to take what you've learned and put it into books 2, and I'm assuming 3? You got a whole Faith series that's in your head, right?
Yeah, and it's outlined too. I have strong plans for at least 2, and I have the ending written down too. By the way, when I was when I was in high school, I was working at a Walden Books, a bookstore in the mall, and I was stocking the shelves with a hardcover of Robert Jordan's third book in the Wheel of Time, and I'd listened to him on the radio in the car on the way to work, and they interview him and it says, "So is this like Lord of the Rings? Is this a trilogy?" And Jordan goes, "Oh no, a trilogy? No, I could write these forever." And I was just like, "Oh man!" When I found that out, I'm like, ah. And then, of course, there's like 15 books, right? And he didn't even live long enough to. Brandon Sanderson had to finish them for him. Bless him. But I only read through book 5 because my favorite character wasn't mentioned in book 5, Perrin, the wolf boy, and I gave up. But I never liked the idea that the author doesn't know the end. So I actually do know the end of Faith Faraday's adventures, and I've written it down. So if anything were ever to happen to me, I've told my son he has to at least publish something so people will know the ending of the story, right? So there's my promise to any future fans I have. You can
Same
go.
here. I know the exact scene of the ending of Lover's Guide to the Infiniverse.
Nice. Hopefully it involves, smoking.
That's where I'm headed.
It's a good cigarette after that. That's what it is. So anyway, I actually started writing the first scene, not really knowing who Faith was exactly. And she was called Chase Turing, and she had a different profession entirely. And I wrote this scene that focused around pretty exotic technology, and it was fun. And I finished it, and I liked it. But then I got to know her, and she was evolved into a different direction. And I ended up renaming her into Faith Faraday and gave her a different profession and continued the story. And through discovery, I think when I figured out the hope angle and the sister, the twin sister who dies and the spaceship and everything, then I started to get a hook onto how it would end. And then I knew how the first book would end, and I just continued to write. I have a day job. I only write on the weekends, and I use voice to text mapped to a button on my mouse. I press a button on my mouse and talk, and words appear immediately. This is not dictation where you talk and then later on you see it. It's like the words are typing themselves out, and then I edit them. There's mistakes all the time, of course. You even used the term pseudo sentience earlier. I said that, and it did sudo sentience, which is a computer command to elevate a process up to be self-administrating. And I was like, oh, that's a mistake. And then I was like, well, is it? And then I made an article on Substack about AIs elevating themselves to sentience, and I called it pseudo sentience with sudo. So I turned a typo into a thing. It was
Yeah, I
fun.
love that. I love
So
those.
little
Yeah.
moments of serendipity and kismet. And I got it. I thought I finished the last chapter July of 24, and I posted on Substack. Whenever I have an idea, I post it to Substack as a in-universe article to give myself a little timestamp of when I thought of it. I hate the idea of all these ideas not seeing the world until the book is published. I want to let them out. I finished last year, and then I thought I really have to do it right in several ways. It has to be quality. So I got the Japanese cultural sensitivity reader, and she gave me over 100 things to change, and I documented all of them so I could go back and look at them another time. And then I met virtually a developmental editor who's a cartoon illustrator too. He's a writer, and he's he draws comic books. I'm sorry, not cartoons, but like Spider-Man, Wonder Woman. He's really good. And that took months, the developmental edit, of course, as it should, as it does for everybody. And then I went to get a copy edit, and I couldn't find anybody at first. So he actually did the copy edit, and that turned into a second dev edit. And then he's like, "Man, so much has changed, Nathan. You need to get a proofreader." And so I was like, "Hey, Ingrid, you want to proofread this?" And that turned into a proofread and a line edit. She found so many things. Apparently, I don't know what to do with a comma. I'm I messed it up like at least 100 times in the book somewhere. But and that was this summer, and it's such a better book now. I'm so proud of it, and I know not everybody can afford editors and things, and I got them I got good deals from everybody.
Hey, thanks, Ingrid.
Yes, thanks, Ingrid. Thank you so much. But I was blessed in that, because that could easily, each one of those phases could have cost over $2,000 easily. And I got lucky by meeting up with generous people. And I think part of it might be I did avail myself of a free 1,000-word sample edit from both Robert, my first editor, and Ingrid. And so I got to know them and what they spotted in my work, and they got to know me. Maybe they liked the book enough that they gave me a deal. So they never said terrific. That, but maybe that's the truth.
Yeah, that's the one place where we diverge. I think we've been kindred souls in terms of our approach, our methodology, our philosophy, our reliance on research, digging in deep. This kind of connection between sophisticated ideation and everyday reality to create that kinesthesis of the drama and the characterizations, focus on character. There's a long list. We diverge here because I'm almost the stereotypical mad scientist in the laboratory, just mixing stuff and blowing up the lab and not listening to anybody. So my book started as a short story during the pandemic back to 2021, January. And the idea of the main character popped into my head. And I wrote a short story and I put it on Medium. And for me, this was an absolute revelation because I figured after 40 years of writing, I finally figured it out. The character focus, just driving it home that way. And I love the character. So I go, this has got some good stuff here. And then it languished for a while. The pandemic receded. I had work, family, all that. And then it bubbled back up about a year ago. I got to do this. And in the interim, I had published another book, an illustrated holiday satire, Super Santa, where I collaborated with an illustrator. And that taught me how to write a book. I wrote a book, a whole novel, 160,000 words of Santa Claus.
Wow, dude. That's
with
big.
180 illustrations.
Wow. See.
So this mammoth project cranked out in about a year, and then I went nuts. This was in parallel to my two sons pretty much becoming independent people. My older son became a Marine. My younger one's got a job and is going to flight school. So the daddy duties kind of abated, and this let me become completely financially irresponsible. and then I dedicated myself to finishing this damn thing. And in the home stretch, I pretty much locked myself in my apartment for 2 months. This April, May. I'm not kidding, 18-hour days. It was complete immersion. All I did was the book, eat, excrete, and hardly shower. So it all just came to fruition, all these elements in this perfect storm. And I'm dating a lovely woman who is also a tutor. She tutors children. And she saw the manuscript pile up like 200, 300 pages on my living room table. And she just was visiting. I had an excuse to shower. So that was good. And she starts flipping through it. And she was interested. And then she holds up a page and goes, "Look, you missed a comma in one of these 3-line sentences." And she became my editor.
Great.
She noticed a
You're
lot of
lucky,
things that
man. That's so
she
lucky.
improved the book without a doubt, but it was completely accidental. And there were several of my 3-line sentences which might have been ambiguous to her. And she was my reality check, because when you're a mad scientist and you lock yourself up, you can go crazy. And I know a
I
lot of
bet.
people and a lot of writers who have spewed complete garbage because they have no reference back to the world.
Right.
So she was my mirror and my reality check. She liked the characters, especially the main character, who was this
Oh,
exaggerated, horrible version of myself. She liked the female characters, and
he makes
almost
you look
all
good, right? You're like, honey, I could be this, but look what you
exactly.
have,
Maybe
right?
that's why she liked it. You're not as
Yeah,
bad as you in
that's
the
right.
book. And so I was on a limb with some of this. Most of my characters are Zoomers; they're Gen Z, and I have mostly female characters, so including the bad guy. So she was able to call bullshit, and she reassured me that I was doing a good job. I was writing a good narrative that absorbed her. She does not like science fiction.
Oh,
So that was good because she didn't come in with any bias. She was like, in and of itself, this is an entertaining read. And there's a relationship between two women in an orphanage. And I thought this was the most cliched thing since Queen's Gambit. and she liked it. She bought into it emotionally.
oh, good.
And she said, go more. I was hesitant because I'm some bald dude writing about a teen relationship in an orphanage in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and she was like, "No. I'm in it to win it. Spend more time with them." And I went for it. So Michelle helped a lot in this home stretch, reassure me that I wasn't completely batshit crazy on the
Mhm.
one hand, and made some great recommendations, both in terms of semantics and syntax to catch typos and errors. So I had an accidental editor, and that was it. I just published the mofo.
That's recognizing serendipity is such a skill, and I think that's the source of a lot of luck. Is if you can recognize that some accidents align enough to help you be successful, and then grab it, take advantage of it. That's how we make our own luck. If you got to keep an open mind for happenstance to be in your favor some once in a while.
Yeah. And the entire writing process, this window of about 8 weeks of manic, frenetic, 100% immersion. I have never worked this hard on anything in my whole life. It was
Good.
utterly brutal. And at the same time, I look back now as one of the greatest times of my whole life,
I'm
where,
tempted to I'm tempted to do that because I have these other Faith Faraday books that I'm going to drive on. Um, and on top of that, I have literally 8 other IPs after Faith. I'm not going to go get distracted. Don't worry. Uh, that I really want to write. And I just don't have enough years left. I mean, I'm not old, but at eight different IPs. So I'm tempted to just crank it out. I'm tempted to try to adopt some of these productivity strategies everybody talks about and just go hell for leather and see what happens.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if I had a choice in the matter just because I was obsessive. My kid lives with me, my 19-year-old, and he would peek in and he goes, "You're like a monk. You're kind of
A
crazy,
smelly
but
monk.
I could feel your inspiration."
Yeah, that's
And
funny.
whether I had to do it that way or not, it was, to your point, a serendipitous convergence because I'm technically a freelancer. I do consulting in my industry, and my business had kind of waned. And instead of looking for more business and reactivating my LLC, I said,
Huh?
I'm going to finish this mofo if it kills me. And then I fell into the hole, and it was there was never a moments of writer's block. When you're sitting there and it's like, well, I'm not quite sure how this is going. I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the mood today. I had none of that. I was like a focused zombie from the second I woke up, all day long, never leaving. I got
Yeah.
the carpal tunnel and all that. And the book became the totality of my reality. And I knew every little nuance of it. And then I went back and forth. And because it was modular in these little paragraphs, the whole book was in the RAM space of my bald head, and I was able to crisscross on every level and make sure that it was together and the way I wanted it to be.
Isn't that a fascinating thing about the reality of these characters? I hear Pierce Brown wrote Red Rising, which I absolutely love his series. Uh, I saw a video where he was talking about his characters, and the way he spoke about them was like as if they really existed in the real physical world. And I think he's a discovery writer, pantser like me, and he was very much like, "What are they going to do next? I don't know." And it's strange. There's uh, writing Faith Faraday. Um, it feels like she's out there somewhere. If
Oh,
I was
100%.
I was in the airport one day, and my wife had to go to the restroom, and I'm standing out there with the suitcases and stuff, and this young lady who comes walking down, and aside from the hair color and eye color, she was Faith Faraday. Same leather jacket, the short jacket with the white top and the midriff and the leather pants. And I'm like, and I didn't say anything to her because I would have come across like an absolute creep. But I was like, that's her. And I wanted to talk to her, but it would have been absolutely weird. So I didn't. But it does feel like she exists out there somewhere, and I could call her up on the phone and talk to her. It's really strange.
That's been a trope in science fiction. I think there was a Star Trek New Generations episode where there was a writer and then the creations came to life in the holodeck or something. And as a writer, every writer feels that way. And if you've got chops and you're a good writer, your characters are actually writing their own story. They're living their lives and doing their own thing. And for my Johnny Fazuli, I had a friend in Chicago. He was a good friend of mine. He had Marfan syndrome, which is the same genetic anomaly that Abraham Lincoln apparently had. These people, and you'll see them occasionally, you just dismiss them as tall people. But you take a human and you stretch them out. They're much taller than average, 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", men and women. I think they're predominantly male though. And they have a long, stretched out, gaunt face. They have a chest indentation where you could literally eat soup out of it. It literally is this. And sometimes, Johnny Fazuli sips a dirty martini out of his. And long.
Oh, now I know why it's a dirty martini.
Yeah, and they have all these horrible comorbidities. Everything from bad eyes to sleep apnea, because the connective tissue in their joints is malfunctioned. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, I took the morphology of my friend Tom and I imbued him with my shitty personality or the shitty aspects of my personality. And I took his face from a Facebook post because he passed away a few years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I put it into, OpenAI's DALL-E. And the Johnny Fazuli, who's on the Johnny Fazuli website, and the Johnny Fazuli that I'm using to promote the book is Tom's face in that. So I brought him back as an homage, and it nails it. That's the
so
Johnny.
Cool.
That's the Johnny in my head. And if it reaches Netflix miniseries like we all want, I would hope that they cast an actor with Marfan syndrome, because I'm sure they're out there.
It must be hard for. I mean, maybe they play niche roles that are super tall people. Like the dude, Star Trek Discovery. There's that alien dude who's like super tall and thin. Maybe he has that.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even think of that. I think that
he has a really cool walk where he casts his arms behind him when he walks. Is kind of octopus like. It's really the guy's amazing.
Yeah, I think he might. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. I think that's a real possibility.
Yeah.
But anyway, that these characters are alive in our head, and one of the themes that I play with is the multiverse, and I give it the name Infiniverse. And if you believe in that, then these characters do exist.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
Infinite permutations, sure.
if there's endless variations of every possibility, like the spider's jar, that's why the spider's jar works particularly well in my book, because it's the essential theme of the reality. If you believe that an infinite number of universes exist with every possibility playing itself out, then there's an infinite number of us and infinite variations of this podcast and this conversation. And your character, Faith exists. And then here's the other, mind F. I've already got an explicit rating on Apple Podcasts because I've F-bombed. So,
Oh,
it's
I was going to ask about that because I've sworn a couple times in here. I
yeah,
don't know
I
if I'm
don't
supposed
care
to.
at this point. I don't care about the bathtubs and bongs on my cover, and I don't care if I have an explicit rating on Apple Podcasts. But anyway, if the Infiniverse exists, then Faith is out there, and if maybe your creativity as a writer, this is another theme that I play with. You're connecting with her in this other universe, because the Faith that you saw in the airport, she's out there, and there could be AI variants. There could be a universe like the one that you've created in your book. And if the Infiniverse does exist and every permutation plays itself out, you're not writing your own original story in that sense, but
I'm channeling somebody.
You are channeling and emulating an existing reality.
That's wild. There's that, this is a bit of a tangent, but there's that characters.ai service. I've been thinking about uploading Faith to that and having fans talk to her. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah. Like she's her own LLM, right?
Yeah. Now that does dovetail into a feature in the book when Hope is about to go on her space trip. Her father hands her a syngram, and an engram, ENGRAM, is a unit of memory biologically in the brain where memories are stored. A syngram is a synthetic version of that. And it's
I've never heard that, and that's great.
Probably because as I made the word up, that's probably why you haven't heard
good for you. Good for you.
So,
I might steal that and then give you residuals from the
bathtub
sales.
So he gives her a little device that holds his syngram, and he's taken all of his writings and speeches and everything he's ever said that's been recorded and put it into an LLM and given it to her. So it's like a pocket dad. You need dad advice when you're on your space journey. There's a pocket dad. And she's showing it to Faith, and Faith's like, I want a pocket dad. And Hope's like, well, you've got the real one, sis. Why don't you just talk to him? I'm the one that's going into space. And there is a copy that stays on Earth, and something happens to it. So I'll tell you if you want to know. I'll tell you after the recording. Yeah. But other people have done this idea where there was a Netflix anime recently that explored this idea. It was really good. And, someone who's passed away and you can talk to them. And I think there's a Black Mirror about this too.
There's a Black Mirror with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can talk to them, and, there's the very big uncanny valley, where not only do they look off, but that's not really your dad. I mean, he does, he makes some dadisms that are familiar because it has it in the database, but it's not really him. But back to our talk about deception, it's going to get good enough. It's going to fool people for sure. People are going to think that's your past. My father passed away when I was 20. He got T-boned in a car accident. I would love to talk to him. The people are going to, and it's going to be soon. It's going to be 2 years, 3 years, if that. People are going to be talking to their dead relatives. And what's going to happen is there's going to be services for capturing all of this digital exhaust that we produce. My syngram, I'm sure I'll have one, will include this video. And my LLM will be trained off of this video we're doing right now, and plus all my emails and everything else. And there's another character who's transhumanist. She has a lot of cybernetic implants. She wants to be an android. She wants to live forever as an android. So she is intentionally training her syngram at the same time that she's building her future android body to inhabit, because she's going to make the transfer, or she's going to die essentially. That's what happens is that, and her true consciousness won't go anywhere. It'll go away with her brain. That's where the consciousness resides, in your brain. And when her body dies, her consciousness will disappear, but a really close replica of it will be in her android. and anybody who knew her won't know the difference.
Yeah, yeah. And then even in Euromancer, you had the little AI in the box that goes on the mission with them, and then you had the big AI Wintermute, who communicates with Case through a payphone in a
I gotta
delightfully
reread that.
anachronistic kind of way.
I wonder if that's where the Matrix got that, the payphone connection.
I think so, like homage. It's so powerful. It was like Gibson was able to anticipate the internet, virtual reality, genetic engineering, space colonization, but he blew the smartphone. He didn't really think about that. And then it's just so great. If they do make a movie, I think they're making a movie. I was always like, don't make a movie on Euromancer because the book is so perfect. But if they make a movie, they need the payphone scene.
I feel that way about a lot of books, but some people have managed to get it right. I think Hobbit and Lord of the Rings got it right. Talking about Neil Stephenson earlier, I do have the pizza delivery, which was not a copy of him at all. I do have a character named Hero, Hiro. So that was a bit of a copy because he calls his hero his main character hero protagonist, which I think is hilarious. And he has the woman on the skateboard that chases him hero down is using a magnetic harpoon to catch the underside. There's so much plastic on the car, she has to catch the underside where the gas tank is because that's the only metal on the car. And so I borrowed the magnetic harpoon, and so those three things, pizza, hero, and magnetic harpoon, are from are similar to Neil Stephenson's book Snow Crash.
I have a few homages to Hunter S. Thompson. There's some similarities there. Obviously, Douglas Adams. Yeah. Gibson I love, but Gibson's way more poetic than my 3-line paragraph. But we all have our influences, right? And it's fun to hat tip to them and give them homages.
Oh, I've got to tell you a fun story. I think one of my inspirations to get into sci-fi in the first place was Ender's Game and Orson Scott Card, right? So, and I was telling Ingrid the story in text earlier. Anyway, I loved Ender's Game, and the last chapter of Ender's Game is called Speaker for the Dead, and book 2 in the Ender's Game series, original series, is called Speaker for the Dead, and then the last chapter in Speaker is called Xenocide, and I figured that the third book in the series was going to be called Xenocide, or maybe it was going to be called Third because it's the third book, and third is an epithet in Ender's world because you're not supposed to have more than 2 kids. And so people would insult Ender calling him third. So I was infatuated with this idea. And living in the mountains of North Carolina, I told my dad I would love to talk to Card about it. And Card was, I think, a professor and a student at UNC Charlotte. And my dad was passing through Charlotte. And he went to the admissions office and he sweet talked the receptionist into giving him Card's phone number and address on a piece of paper. And, my dad was a bit of a seat of the pants kind of guy too. And he brings it home and he goes, "Hey, Nathan, here's Card's info." And I was like, "What the hell?" So I get all ready and I call up Card and he picks up the phone and I say, "Is this Orson Scott Card?" And he goes, he starts to laugh a little bit. He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Is this the Orson Scott Card?" Yes, this is the. And so I explained to him my theory about Xenocide versus Third. And he goes, "Oh, actually, those were the 2 titles we were considering for the book, but we didn't think people would really understand Third because it's a little, obscure. So we're going to go with Xenocide." Yeah, you're right. And I was like, "Wow, that's so cool. When's it going to come out?" And he goes, "Well, I got up from writing it to answer the phone." And I was like, "Oh, why don't you go back? Thanks, bye." So I said my goodbyes and I hung up. And so I interrupted him writing Xenocide. It's so funny.
That's really funny.
He's on Twitter right now. He's been active and he doesn't have many followers. And I've been meaning to make a YouTube of what I just told you. Maybe I'll clip this and send it to him. Just say thank you for being so kind. Yeah, I think I might. I might do that. Say, hey, Orson, you're a huge inspiration. Thank you.
We tacitly assume that these celebrities and these icons that we adore are like overwhelmed with accolades, and we're just being intrusive, and we're being another annoying fan asking for an autograph when sure. Maybe they're just like doing their thing, and they appreciate an occasional hello.
You
You're
know,
awesome. And
I've got my first sci-fi book is out today, and he was the first sci-fi author I ever read, and I read almost everything he had ever written at the time. And his character Jane is, an early in the ear AI. It's fascinating. The whole thing's fascinating. I owe a lot to him in his inspirational work.
yeah, I have an opposite kind of experience. Ray Bradbury was on tour and he was giving talks. And he came by Chicago. This must have been 1995, 1996. He's giving a talk at some place in Chicago. It's kind of an intimate venue. There are only a few hundred people here. And I really wanted to hear him speak, and I wanted to get close to Ray and check him out. I was never a huge Ray Bradbury fan. I really grew up on Asimov, and I like the more alternative writers, but he's classic, of course. Ray Bradbury, Dandelion Wine, and 451.
Oh,
so
God.
I get kind of close. I'm only 3-4 rows up, right in the middle. Boom. And I was managing a bar at the time, and the owner gave me a pager. And in order to see Ray, I had to give my shift to another bartender. Excuse me. Now the spirit of Ray is punishing me again. And I'm in there and he's talking, and my pager is going beep, beep, beep. Sorry, Ray. And I was torn between just shutting this down and being respectful to Ray. And I knew there was some crisis going on at the business that I was managing. So it went off 2-3 times. He stopped while he's talking. And so Ray Bradbury gave me a stare down. Like, are you done yet? Can you just either answer that fucking thing or pay attention to me?
That's hilarious.
And then, it went off again. And I'm like, I kind of like Bugs Bunny. I
worked
my way through. So Ray Bradbury had the opposite experiences you did with.
That's great.
The Ender's Game author. So there you go.
So I was telling you about the infiltrating the office building in real life and then having Faith do it. And book 2 is starting with another one of mine. I was going to E3, which is the video game expo in LA, and we were trying to two of my buddies that are in PR and marketing. I was in web production, and we're trying to get into the Ziff Davis E3 party because one of our former coworkers is in there. He's like a VP of marketing now, and we want to see him, but we don't have, we're not on the list. And amongst the three of us, we have one name. One of our marketing buddies, Chris Sturr is actually his name if he ever watches this. And the three of us walk up to the desk where they have the badges, and my two buddies seem really intent. And so I hang back just a couple feet just as they walk up. And they both walk up to the guy behind the desk. And at the same moment, they say, "I'm Chris Sturr." And then they look at each other like, "Why the hell did you do?" And the guy behind the desk goes, "Well, at least one of you is lying." And they're all three of them are shocked by what just happened. And I'm hanging back. And this guy comes walking out. And his name, he has wearing a name tag that has like Sharpie on it. And it says like, I don't remember the guy. It says like Robert Smith, right? And he's in a suit and he's walking out. And I read his name tag. So I walked up to the same dude who's dealing with my friends. And I say, "I'm Robert Smith." And he goes, "Oh, 1 second, sir." And he looks at this list and he goes, "The Robert Smith?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then he gives me the pre-printed badge because Robert Smith just left with the written one. And he goes, "Here you go, sir. By all means, go right in." And I'm like, "Okay." So I walk in and I find my buddy who was the VP of marketing of Ziff Davis at the time and who just joined. And I go, "Hey, who's Robert Smith?" And he goes, "Oh, he just left. I think he was just leaving. Would you like to meet him?" I'm like, No, I don't want to meet." So I'm putting that. I've already written this scene for the start of book 2 for Faith to do the exact same thing.
That's great. Did you integrate these little anecdotes from your life? You personalize it and you project your own shenanigans into your character.
And it also technologies. Like I'm at Sony. I was pretty much an inventor, and I have 3 solo patents. and one of them is in the PlayStation 5, and it was it was actually inspired from a radio dongle device that was created in Japan, where you would type in your demographic data into like Windows 95, and you would walk around Tokyo, and it would broadcast your likes and dislikes. And if you came in range of somebody who was compatible, it would go off. And I designed something similar to be put into massively multiplayer games, where if you're a healer and I'm a tank, and we have 5 quests in common, and we both log in Thursday nights after 7. It'll suggest that we're friends, and group us up, or at least add each other to the friends list. So I get to take my stories of my little adventures and my inventions, even if they were never produced by anybody, and stick them in my book where they'll do some good.
Yeah, the more personal you make it. Thomas Pynchon, of all people, said, "I always just write about myself." So, I mean, it's true. It's like it comes from here. It's passionate. You're vested, and your readers can feel that. You know, the output
Yeah.
is exemplary that way. What's your day job? It sounds technical, like you've got a software background.
Yeah, I'm a director of user experience, and user experience is a fancy term for software design. It's not like the visuals or the font or the colors. It involves that, but it's more like what happens first, second, third, the flow of things. Where there's a thing called that dovetails nicely with writing. It's called progressive disclosure, where you only show people the buttons and the input fields that they need right now. You don't show them everything at once. So that's very, very close to writing, as progressively disclosing the world, not doing info dumps, explaining the world as the character interacts with it is very similar to showing interfaces as the user needs them, right? So it's also is a wonderful blend of creativity and technology. So and that's when I started. I thought I wanted to be a photojournalist because I really loved the blend of creativity and technology. You needed at the time to know film, but lenses and f-stops and shutter speeds and all that stuff, depth of field. And then you needed to be creative with it. And that morphed into web design, and that morphed into user experience. And you have to have the technical chops to know what's possible and what's about to be possible. And then invent things. That's what I did a lot at Sony. Was I would invent things that were just about to be possible using tomorrow's technology that we're just about to figure out, and then meet some need that users have, like making friends in an online game. If the guy standing next to you has 7 of the same quests as you, and he's compatible as far as gameplay styles go, and he's going to be on tomorrow, and so are you. The guys should be buddies. So let's introduce you.
That's great. So you have this innate intuition as to the audience. You need
Yeah,
to be creative in a sense of like knowing the technology, but then understanding from the audience's point of view what their needs are. And a good writer does that in terms of anticipating what their readers are thinking and desiring, providing just enough to captivate, enough to assure and guide, and pepper it with enough excitement and uncertainty to keep the tension alive and to keep the pages turning.
that's the thing yes, that's the thing that fascinates me, is the sense of pacing and timing. Like you're writing a scene, and you're like, should the next scene be kind of a breather, a dip between the action? And I did a little vertical graph of um, I went to this tool called Mila Note, and it's like a Miro or a Visio, and I made these big text blocks, and I put a whole chapter in the text block, and then I made all 40 chapters, and it's just this big vertical thing. I could spot the super long chapters and chop them in half, and then I colored the ones that had action with the yellow highlight sort of, and I could see it was action, rest, action, rest, action, rest. I was like, that's good. And then it was like 6 chapters of no action. I was like, oh, that's bad. So I stuck, I think my intuition for how to pace things was good, but after I looked at it like data, I could see where I didn't quite make the cut. So I took an action chunk and I stuck it back a few chapters to give a cadence. So
Yeah, and that's another area where my 3-line paragraph OCD mania was very, very useful because it's all staccato. It's all broken up into these bits. So as you consume it, you're getting these 1-2 punches in the face with these bursts of prose. And then stepping back from it, you could see the ebb and flow of the action. And when I was editing it, it was all floating around in my head, these 2 crazy months of obsessive immersion. Then I literally could just take the chunks and move them. So if the action slowed down and I felt that it needed some zip, or if I felt that a character's arc had fallen off prematurely, or I needed to reintroduce them to keep the tension alive, then I wrote a new chunk and then I slipped it right in there. So it became modular, like Lego pieces.
Yeah.
It was like a Lego, it's a Lego novel with
That's
these
so cool.
chunks moving around. And that proved to be cool. And then I published it, and then I flew to Chicago to do some personal stuff with family a few months after writing it. And I brought the book, and I hadn't really looked at the book since publishing it. And then I tried to pretend I'm a reader exposed to it for the first time. To be as objective as possible as being. And then I'm like flipping through this, and I was like, I like this. This is good. And the 3-line paragraphs kept me going. You know, I was like,
that's cool.
It creates its own artificial rhythm, but at the same time, you as a reader superimpose your own feelings based on where you're at and based on the narrative.
That's cool, man.
So I think this experiment worked. I'm going to keep doing it for the rest of the series, regardless of what people think about either the bathtub on the cover or the 3-line prose. I'm going to keep at it.
Maybe you could put somebody in the bathtub. Bathtubs can be interesting.
Well, I'm joking about the bathtub, but the transfinite reality engine, which is the machine that can actually take a user to another universe based upon their desire, the essential premise is this. If there's an infinite multiverse, then there's a universe that's identical to this one, except you happen to be a billionaire. Or I happen to date Scarlett Johansson or whatever. So it's got a PET scanner which reads your mind. It's got a conventional computer which translates that into an algorithm for a quantum computer that sets up magnet orientations for a thermonuclear device that propels you into this other universe.
Wow.
That's the setup. And
that's quite a combination of tech.
Yeah. So your thoughts, your wish, translated into a coordinate system in space-time, and then the raw power to blast you into the other universe. That's version 1. And guess what? It's you lie in a bathtub. And so, that's the bathtub. And
that's funny.
Just the last piece of just tidbits about my book. It was all meant to happen in the first book. The ideation, the design, the development, and the accidental success of the device. Yeah. So it ends with Johnny blasting into the other universe. And I just got carried away in my immersion. So I was at 420 pages, and I'm like, they haven't even built the thing yet. So let's cut the book in 2 and to be continued. So there you have it.
So how many words was that? Do you know how many? 420?
I think I'm at 120,000 for just Johnny, but I've got another 100,000 written already because that was going to be in the first book. So the second book is about 80% there, I think.
That's serious. That's amazing.
Yeah, and then they're off to the Infiniverse after that. This is actually cool. The first 2 books are actually an intro. They don't actually enter the Infiniverse until the device is created.
And bathtubs, they have pivotal moments in film. There's a couple of movies where people jump in the tub if there's like an earthquake or a blast of some sort coming as protective. And there's other one. The one that's most evocative for me is the Harrison Ford movie, What Lies Beneath. I forget the lady's name in the. That scene where she's paralyzed and the tub's filling up and she's up to her nose and she's trying to, her feet come back, like she can control her feet. She's trying to turn it up.
She's kind of twitching. She's kind of twitching in that. Yeah.
She just makes it. It goes up above to her eyes and oh man.
Yeah,
So
and then
good.
Psycho, obviously the scene in Psycho with the blood going down the drain. And my favorite literary reference to a bathtub is when Hunter S. Thompson's Samoan attorney is on acid in a bathtub.
Oh, wow.
And then he's listening to White Rabbit at ear-splitting volume.
Oh,
And he insists that Hunter take the radio while it's still plugged into the wall, and right at the chorus where she sings White Rabbit, he's supposed to take that plugged in radio and hurl it into the bathtub and electrocute him. So at the
geez.
pinnacle of his hallucinogenic ecstasy, he gets electrocuted. So
Wow.
instead of doing that, Hunter S. Thompson takes a gigantic grapefruit that they have because they have vitamin C deficiency because they're doing so many drugs. And right at that moment, instead of throwing the radio in, he takes the grapefruit and he throws it in. And
Fakes him out.
the Samoan attorney thinks he's dying, and he's thrashing in the bath. That's my
That's
favorite
amazing.
bathtub scene.
And what was that in?
That's in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I gotta watch that. That's so amazing.
That's a book. Well, I don't know if they did it in the movie. I never saw the movie with.
Oh, the way you described it, I thought it was a film.
Yeah. This
That's
was
great.
in a book. They might have reproduced it in the movie with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp plays Hunter S. Thompson.
That'd be so cool.
So thank you for your time, Nathan. This was a long.
It was a blast, man.
Meandering, super fun conversation.
Oh gosh, we're at 3 hours. Oh man, that's amazing.
This is great.
It's been an absolute joy. This one thing I have I've only really been able to dip my toe in a little bit is community. I mean, I'm on Twitter quite, with that community, but it's really been my first editor, Robert, and Ingrid in particular, who've provided that sounding board. Ingrid has taught me so many things just through, and we haven't even spoken, but we've been typing to each other. And so again, getting to know you, it really adds to that community I've really been needing. So that's fantastic. Thank you.
Same here. And that's part of my motivation for starting this podcast, which is get people off screens and onto new ones where at least you're interacting in real time. And
I don't know why we don't do this more. I mean, I have one of my best friends. We Zoom every other week, and he reads me my book. We spend an hour together. A half hour of it, he reads whatever we can get to of my book. And having him read it to me, I catch moments that he might stumble over a little bit. English is a second language, so it's even better. And I don't know why we don't hop on these things more often. I mean, maybe other people do. I need to do it more.
Yeah, hit record and put it out there. And I'm going to take this podcast and chop it up, especially the video version, put it up on YouTube so you have little sound bites. And we're going to have links to all of your goodies down in the description along with your bio. And welcome to the Indie Writer Party, pal. You are now an Indie Writer. Congratulations on
as
launch
of today.
Day.
Yes.
Yeah, congratulations. And let's see where it goes. And I think, again, based on our marketing part of this conversation, you have a hot cybernetic chick on your cover, and it's going to sell.
That's so cool.
I think that would be a great starting point for a great career in sci-fi, and I can't wait to read it. Even based on this conversation, we're just so aligned in terms of our worldview and our methodology for writing.
I think you'll like it, and it is packed with events, technology. I mean, it doesn't go in a lull like ever. So there's a lot of content in the book. I really could have padded it and made it into 3 books easily. But I figured,
how many pages? How many words?
It's 320 pages. It's 92,000 words. And depending upon the margin, I just got my second proof, and the page count is different from my first proof. So even though there's more, because the margins changed a little bit, but I could have padded it out. But it's one of those things where the more you use creativity, the more you get. So I figured, don't pad it out. Just keep going. Write the second book. And the second book will be just as chock full of fun as the first book. So it's not like I'm not going to run out of creativity. It just doesn't happen.
No, same here. I've got 5 books. The first one done. I've got the 4 pretty much mapped out. and I can't wait to crank out the second one too. So, and it really fills one's life with anxiety on the one hand. You're like, wow, I need to get to this, get it done. But on the other, such satisfaction that, as long as you keep kicking, you can keep sharing with the world and bringing these worlds to life.
It's so edifying. And just today, a person I just met a couple days ago online, she's an ARC reader for me, and she's reading the book, and she's probably 150 pages in, a little less than half, and she's telling me what she likes about Faith, and it just juices me up, man. It makes me feel so good. It makes me want to write that second one quick.
Yeah. You know what we could do as an exercise? I have yet to read your book because it has yet to be out. So we could do dueling book reviews if you're into it, as a follow-up podcast if that interests you. So
that'd be really fun.
Check out my Fazuli, and then I'll check out your Faith, and we could hurl it at each other, see what we liked.
That'd be cool. I think I like your guy. What you've told me about him, and the skimming the Twitter account. It's and I'm obviously a huge Douglas Adams fan, so it sounds really cool.
That could be a follow-up for us in terms of writer on writer.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Spy versus spy.
Yeah.
We could do writer versus writer. We're clearly starting with a foundation of commonality in terms of our approach, character, drama, research,
some humor.
Both like hard science fiction. It's got those elements of that. So the rest is stylistic and these other choices that have been made. So I'd be curious what you think, and I'm very curious to dive into yours. So that could
awesome,
be
man. You'll have to have patience with me because I'm a bit of a slow reader, but that sounds like a really fun time.
You could read a tweet a day.
That would be wild. What a surreal experience that would be.
Yeah. See if it sticks. So anyway, cool. Listeners, if you made it this far, we know you did. Thanks for listening to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Factory with Mookie Spitz here, and I've had Nathan J. Pearce.
And my stuff's at ff7.com.
We're going to have that, ff7.com. We're going to have that in the description below. And we'd love to hear back from you. So I've got a link in the podcast where you could text me direct. And then you've got a contact and a sign up for your newsletter on your website, right? So do that.
Yes, almost there.
Very close. Almost CRM program.
Yeah. I'm so close, but I've been having some web problems, but I'll be there.
Yeah, like my plumber and Twitter problems with Johnny keeps glitching as I try to tweet the universe.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. This has been a joy, and I appreciate
it's great to talk to a like-minded soul, and I wish you the best with the launch.
Thank you. Thanks, Ingrid, for linking us up.
Yeah. Kudos to Ingrid. Well, maybe we could get on with Ingrid. We can do
that'd be fun.
A menage a pod.
That'd be
care,
awesome.
Folks. Thanks for listening, and more to come.
Thanks, Mookie.